Hello everyone, welcome on in. You can see today there's absolutely nothing behind me. It's because, and you're not going to believe this, it's because I don't think I will even start the game today. We might at some point jump in the game to check something out, but I kind of doubt it. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to go there. YouTube video in the background of Morrowind. Perfect. The plan for today, we will be talking about Morrowind and mods and modding, but not so much looking at specific mod, because the guest today is Lucas, and you'll tell me if I say that wrong or not in a minute, a.k.a. Sigourn, which is a name you might recognize from the Morrowind Sharp Guide. Lucas, hello, welcome on in.
Hi, how are you doing? Thank you for having me today.
It's a great pleasure to have you. I think maybe your voice was a little strong there. I still had the volume cranked way up from yesterday. It's a pleasure to have you, really. And, talk about Morrowind. It's a good way to spend a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Chad, before we actually dive in the discussion itself, can you tell me how it is with the volume, my voice, Lucas's voice, and all that? And we're gonna have a bit of Elder Scrolls music in the background while we speak. Zero Fox, welcome back. Oh, Lucas, I forgot to ask you, do you have eyes on the Twitch chat?
Yes.
Excellent. So if they ask a question, I don't have to interrupt you. You might see it and answer it. If it's a question that's not interesting, it never happened. Sounds good to you?
Okay, no problem.
All right, excellent. Whipples, welcome back. And Prof, hello. And I've seen Void, that was good there. That was there first as well. Okay, plan for today. We're going to talk about Morrowind Sharp. We're going to talk about the continuation and now there's music in the background. Sip, welcome. The continuation and improvement of BTB games improvement, and then OAAB equipment integration and community equipment integration. So that's a lot on our plate. What would you like to start with? You get to choose.
Whatever you wish.
Okay, that's the thing. Like, I ask people, it's not so much because I want to give them the freedom. I don't want to take responsibility. So, plan B, chat. What do we start with? Do you want to talk about Morrowind Sharp, the modding guide, BTB game improvement, or OAAB and community equipment integration? I don't have my copy yet. Chat, you decide. Or we can listen to 4 hours of Elder Scrolls music together. Integration, yeah, I can show you. It's I think it's the last thing you've done, right? There it is.
Yeah, that's basically the last big mod project I had the idea to make.
Well, I think Sip has just sort of chosen with this question, so we're gonna start with that.
All right. So basically, the idea for this mod came. I saw a lot of cool weapons in the a.k.a. Blight data repository, and I was like, I really wish I could use these weapons in game, but the only mod I saw that integrated them at the time was the a.k.a. Blight data leveled lists mod, and I was like, I don't want all these other items. I just want the weapons because they were so well done. They blended it so well with the game that I just wanted to have those. And I used the leveled lists mod as a base, and then I started checking out other mods that integrated similar weapons like the Star Rim bow, the Star Rim spear that you could craft in Blood Moon. And I was like, I want all of this. And the other part of the project was seeing how to integrate this into NPCs and locations. And that is so much more difficult because there are a lot of iconic NPCs in the game that you just don't want to touch. Like, I saw a mod that integrated leather armor into Friskar, the Nord that's at Arwell's trade house. And I didn't like that. I mean, you already know what he looks like you already know what Fargoth looks like with his green shirt. You don't want to touch any of that. And it was a matter of playing through the game and deciding, okay, this NPC could use a little visual tweak. This NPC could use a better weapon. This NPC will definitely look great wearing Drow armor. And I actually gave it to a Nord that's at a ship by sea at the Bitter Coast.
So if I understand properly, you wanted to get the gear from a.k.a. in the game, but at the same time you wanted to stay away from the major NPCs that are iconic, I guess. So you went for interesting NPCs, but not the ones that people know and are popular in memes, for example.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I just wanted to make the more unknown NPCs more memorable instead of tweaking the ones that people already know, recognize, and love. That was basically the idea behind the project.
Yeah, I get that. And we do have a few screenshots there. Though that's a lot more NPCs, because that's quite a few. I think a.k.a. has now 5 or 6 sets of armor. I haven't checked the very latest version of it.
Yeah, and one thing I stayed away from was integrating the armor sets. And that was basically because I thought that the sets didn't quite blend in with the game as much as the weapons did. I actually checked out the meshes in Mixscope, and I could see they were weird. They didn't follow the same template as the vanilla armor pieces do.
Fair enough. I'm not 100% sure that the vanilla armor pieces are particularly optimized. I can't model to save my life. So you can show me a model, and I probably won't be able to tell you if it's good or not. But I would assume that, that's what Morrowind optimization patch does, improving the models of so many items. But then again,
right.
Then again, like I'm not saying I'm disagreeing with you. I'm saying that doing it exactly the same way Bethesda did might not be the best way.
Yeah, I know. No, there was an armor that made it look like the torso was so much more taller than the shoulders. And that was very weird to me. That's basically why I stayed away from integrating those armors into the game.
That's fair.
And when it came to armors, what I did was resort to Roofing Vanguard's armor sets, which I think are fantastic.
We talked to Ruffin last year now, and we looked at it. He was with us. We looked at, I think, every armor he's ever made.
Yeah, he's made quite a lot.
And so, I mean, that's just an example. His exile armor, which I think might be a favorite for a lot of people. But
the exile armor had a lot of cool lore behind it. I was a bit sad that it can be found in only one place instead of being placed distributed among a number of NPCs.
That's precisely why you integrating all of this, because Ruffin creates models, but he doesn't create quests and dungeons for these. So to have somebody like you who's going to place those in the game in a clever and realistic way is ideal, in fact.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to do was make it feel like these armors had been in the game from the start. And that's basically why I didn't touch the iconic NPCs, because if you change that, people will notice and they will probably not like it.
I'm not disagreeing. I tend to be the opposite, where I really like, every time I start the game, I want people to look different. Like, not their face, because their face is their face, but I like to think that even Fargoth changes his shirt every once in a while, laundry day or something. So I really do like randomizing what NPCs are wearing. Obviously, not giving Fargos ebony armor, that'd be completely crazy, but giving him a different common shirt, for example. At the same time, I totally get what you're saying, because those are NPCs that essentially we've known for 20 years. And when they've looked one way for 20 years and then suddenly they come and dress differently, you're like, that's not you. That's wrong. So I get the idea as well.
Yeah, the thing with Morrowind is that because NPCs all share the same faces, what really sets them apart from each other, apart from where they are in the world, their dialogue and such, are the clothes they are wearing.
True. I get the feeling that you might be a little bit of a purist when it comes to modding your game. I'm guessing faces.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, like it's not an insult, okay? I'm not saying oh, but you say all NPCs, and it's true. Like there's maybe what 10 Nord male face. Oh, maybe the Nords have a little more with Blood Moon, but 10 Breton faces, and obviously you come across clones. So I agree. With vanilla faces, even if you have a facelift to improve the models, yeah, the clothes are really, really important to make the NPC distinctive. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's just how I feel the way it is. I mean,
I see you put in yourself, obviously, Remuros. Is that because he did models in OAAB? Or there's something from Remuros in particular that you integrated? Oh, the bows.
Oh.
Marksman.
Oh yeah. Well, Remuros Hunter's Mark mode was the first mod that I said I really want to change how this is integrated into the game, because if there's some weapon variety I think is missing weapons, it's the marksman weapons.
Especially throwing and crossbow, I feel.
Yeah.
So that's how you started this whole project.
Yeah, that's how it began, and when I saw that Of Ashen Blight data had a lot of cool weapons, I said, well, if I've already done this with Remuner's mod, why don't I just expand it?
Makes sense. So this one is also included. Do you need to download the separate mod, or it's already bundled? Because I know Remuros has open perms and you can include the assets.
Well, thankfully, his mod is already, the assets for the mod are already merged into Of Ashen Blight data.
Mm-hmm. True.
And what I also did was integrate Stripe's Tamrielic Tomahawks into the mod.
Mm-hmm. That's also a lack in the game.
Yeah, and I thought his weapons were really cool. Even if he said he didn't like them much, I think they were great.
I agree. I agree that we definitely needed them. I also added them to wares because I wanted them. So I'm gonna show them real quick so people can see them. Tamrielic Tomahawks, and the best part is they fit in the game because they're based on the vanilla model, so you don't get some crazy fancy weapons that really stand out. That's just what you want.
Yeah, exactly. I did have to tweak the damage values a bit because I felt that at times they could be very underpowered, and at other times I felt they were too strong.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of tweaking values until I felt it was right.
Well, in that case, shall we take a look at your impressive spreadsheet where you put
sure.
like so OAAB, these are the weapons. Tell us what we're looking at. Chat, if it's too small, I can zoom in a little bit. Just tell me. Maybe I'll do it anyway.
Yeah, okay. I'm seeing the screen now. Yeah, well, what I did first was to list all the values for all the weapons as they were in Of Ashen Blight data.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went through the spreadsheets at UESP to look at the vanilla weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put them all in a single spreadsheet and started tweaking values until I felt they matched what I expected them to be like in vanilla. Because a lot of people do not know that vanilla weapons have certain consistency among them. Like a certain material will be twice as durable, or twice as heavy, or half as heavy, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty simple to make them consistent with each other. Blood Moon is notoriously...
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. I'll try to remember my question, which is...
Okay. Blood Moon is notoriously inconsistent in its weapon stats. Like you have the Huntsman weapons that some are very weak and others are very strong.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Soldering weapons where some are extremely heavy and you start wondering, why is this so heavy? It's clearly a balanced compromise,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to change that.
Mm-hmm. Good. I remember my question because you started off from the vanilla values of the weapons.
Yeah.
I know for the longest time, BTB was part of your guide, and if I'm not mistaken, BTB Games Improvement also changes the value of some weapons. So the question is, the changes you've made for your integration, is that based on vanilla? Is it consistent with BTB as well, or not?
It is based on vanilla, and my BTB mod includes a patch that tweaks weapon damages, weapon values, weapon durability in the case of glass to make it weaker.
Nice. So basically you thought of everything.
Yeah, I didn't want to force BTB onto people because the reason it had been in my guides for so long was because I think it's essential. For me, it is an essential mod. But many people disagreed, and I said, okay, well, if people don't want to use BTB, I don't want to force them to use BTB.
Fair assessment. We'll talk about BTB afterwards as well. This is what you did for OAAB to work with BTB, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
And you use the same principle.
Yeah, and there's one spreadsheet that reads spear tweaks, and this was based off another mod. I can't remember the name of the author at the moment, but what they basically said was all spears are very similar to each other. Even halberds and spears are basically the same thing. And I said, okay, well, let's tweak the values to make them more distinct from each other. So spears, for instance, are pure thrusting power. And they are great when it comes to keeping your distance between you and the enemy, because we know that in Morrowind, if you walk forward, you will thrust, and if you walk backwards, you will thrust too. Whereas halberds are more of a stand your ground and kill everything with chops and slashes.
I would expect, I'm definitely not an expert on weapons, but I would expect the halberds to be heavier as well.
Yeah, I made them heavier, and originally they were much more heavier, like 150% as heavier as spears. But again, a lot of people said, "Oh no, this is too heavy. I don't want to use halberds anymore."
You ruined halberds for me.
Yeah, and I'm like at the point where I wanted to make it as heavy as possible, while still letting the player say, okay, I want to use them. I don't care how heavy they are, I want to use them.
Well, you want to go, okay, it's heavy, but the trade-off is worth it.
Exactly.
So the player makes a conscious choice of using a weapon for a perk, despite... I like that, honestly. It feels sad for me when in a game, in an RPG game, the way you choose your gear, you just look at whichever has the highest value, and you know that's the better one for you, and you don't think about it. Whereas when you have to go, you know what, this is bloody heavy, but I'd be able to do a thrust and a slash damage if I need to. Like, I like having the option to make a conscious choice when playing.
Yeah. At the moment I'm playing Fallout New Vegas, and there's a mod I'm using which adds a backpack, pretty much like Mirrorlord's Ashfall. And I said, okay, I have this extra carry weight, but I want to have some penalty, because else why would I not use a backpack? So I threw a bunch of debuffs on it, and that's just how I like to play my games.
I didn't catch the name of the game. What was it?
Fallout New Vegas.
Oh, Fallout New Vegas, of course. Right. Which I still haven't played. But everyone in the Morrowind community says it's the best Fallout to play, and so I know I will enjoy it. I just need to find the time. That's detail. Little detail. All right, so that is the one. Natinet did some weapons as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he did the Oriental Ebony weapon set.
Yes. There's a set of weapon that I quite like. It's the 6 house weapons.
Yeah, I actually had made a separate mod for that. It gave the 6 house ebony obsidian weapons to the 6 house cultists. And so instead of playing clubs, they will come at you with swords, with bows, and with maces. I tried to make them stronger, but I ran into a little problem, which was they were still very, very weak. And I was like, I don't want to make them HP sponges, because that's just boring. It's more tedious than it is fun. So in the end, I scrape it all and hit them on.
Oh. And you think you'll give it another shot or not? Like that.
I could make it visible again and encourage anyone to improve on it. I would love to see it improve, because these are very boring enemies that it feels like they are placed in the caves just because we need to have cultists.
I thought they're really, really beautiful. I like also Evolga's Dreamer. I think it's Evolga, the Dreamer overhaul. So there's different types of Dreamers, not just a naked dude in his underwear.
Oh, yeah.
And then adding that is pretty cool. But for anyone who likes that, I'm not sure how you can find them in the 6 house bases. So they're already in the game. But I know that Random Pal also integrated those in his creature mod. So if you guys want to see more of these used by NPCs, dreamers in that case, Random Pal Creatures mod is going to have them as well, but without the rebalance.
Yeah, the good thing about Random Pal's rebalances, I mean integration mods, is that, as you all should know already, he makes beautiful cities of Morrowind. So you have the same person doing integrations that are compatible with his own mod.
Yeah. So that is the one. Mostly it is a creature, Pirate Lord's creature, and then a bunch of creature from Archimestro Antares, a few more from Neoptolemus, I think, from his undead mod. I think it's fair to say this one is pretty much the go-to mod for vanilla-friendly creatures when you want a bit more variety, but you don't want to find purple dragons in your games, which happened to me with giants, which I'm guessing is a mod you would never be caught playing ever.
No, not that mod.
No.
No, I try to keep things as vanilla purist as possible, with some leeway to include mods like weapon integrations and such.
So introduce a bit of variety, but not things out of place.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand. Oh right, is there something else on OAAB and community equipment integration? Actually, I have a question. Do you plan to add more assets to this mod?
Well, if the guys from OAAB get around to fixing the throwing knives, because there's a very, very nice obsidian 6 house throwing knife that sadly it is buggy. You can see the knife floating on the hand mesh. I will love to see that fixed so I could include it in my mod.
Well, we'll let Melchior know about it, so he can the team to get to it. Throwing weapons is a huge disappointment in vanilla Morrowind. Okay, I never use them unless I have a mod that adds them to the game.
My mod actually, I believe my mod does make them more common from vendor inventories.
That'd be good.
Because as you said, they are so uncommon that I don't know why even use them. Plus, they get spent so quickly. They do so little damage. It's not worth it.
I'm trying right now to remember the name of R0's mod, which is a must-have if you like throwing weapons, but
Improve thrown weapon projectiles.
thrown, not throwing, thrown. There it is. That is an absolute must-have. Well, the screenshot doesn't tell you exactly, but for
when I see anime screenshots, it's like, okay, what do we have here?
That's vanilla. I shall kill you with the handle of my dagger.
Yeah, they look so goofy. It's pretty much like a bug fix for me.
Pretty much. That's why I'm mentioning it, because I don't think it's a mod that a lot of people are aware of. But it's so important. It makes you throw the pointy bit towards the enemies. So important. So from R0, your modding superhero. I did not notice that when we talked to
And
R0.
the good thing is that Stripe's Tamrielic Tomahawks already, in a way, had that bug fixed because his axes go pointy and forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's a must-have. That is in your guide, right?
Yeah.
Good. It's a must. That people are not really aware of. For 1,000 downloads, I guess it's not bad for Morrowind. Not bad. Shall we actually go and talk about Morrowind Sharp? Unless, chat, if you had extra questions about a.k.a. and equipment integration. Oh, I wanted to show you something. When I saw your spreadsheets,
Yeah.
This is mine that I used for when trying to rebalance Helova, which
That's
had
pretty great.
a shitload.
So
I
it
didn't do that. 90s, hi. I didn't do that. It's a Konatogen that did the pretty. And so he put pretty much the same thing. Added the vanilla weapons, such as these ones, with their values from the wiki, and then just going, well, this one should be a little sturdier, this one should be a little this, and I believe, where are my spears? For the spears, when they actually had a blade bit, like a halberd, then they would have their damage modified, or the blunt if they were particularly heavy at the end with proper crushing damage. Like he went through all the weapons with a more expert eye than I could, but that took forever. And then to do the same with the armor.
That's one thing I really wanted to do, but then I told myself, are people even going to notice if I make specific spears do more thrusting damage over blunt damage? Or maybe they'll say, oh, I don't want to have this damage here, I just want the same damage on all weapons. But you can never please everyone.
No, that's never going to happen. And I've seen a number of mods also for Oblivion and Skyrim that would overhaul the damage of the weapon based on historical weapons. And say, well, a bastard sword would be this heavy and would do that much damage and everything. You say, oh no. Why do you say, oh no?
I like the idea, but when it comes to compatibility with our mods, it's a nightmare because the user doesn't know where to begin the patching process.
Mm-hmm. Compatibility is one thing, for sure. And then I'm not sure that me, while playing the game, I'm going to notice Like if that weapon has +2 maximum damage and this one has +5 weight, I'm not sure I'm going to notice really. So I'm like, do I need to know that my weapons are
Yeah.
historically accurate?
Yeah, one thing I have is that when weapons have so little, their stats are so similar, I either do one of two things. Either I make them the same, or I make them considerably different. I don't want people to say, oh, this difference is meaningless. No, either say, okay, these weapons are the same, or this is much better, or this is much worse, or they are better and worse in their own ways.
Does the same apply to armor for you?
I think armor is different because in RPGs you generally have armor that is meant to be stronger. Of course, I don't want, like we had the case of vanilla armors where glass is so much more powerful than chitin. What's the point of having chitin to begin with? There's a serious lack of light armor variety in Morrowind.
I think
And I think that
I would go even further to say there is a serious lack of choice in armor in the Elder Scrolls. It's just, and especially light armor. So you have fur, leather that have the same stats, chitin, glass. What's between chitin and glass? Nothing. Oh,
nothing.
Dark Brotherhood.
You also have Netch leather before
just before chitin, yeah. But you're right, the difference is so negligible that it makes them...
and that's something I actually wanted to tackle in my BTB mod, but we will leave that for later.
We will get back to it, yes. Overhauls. But what I wanted to say is some players, myself included, are vanity players, and I'm the sort of player who is not going to wear a helmet because it's ugly. I will wear the pretty armor, like the Netch leather armor, for example, is really crappy in stats, but I will wear it because it looks cool.
It looks so cool.
Exactly.
It looks cool. It's so native to Morrowind that you want to use it.
It's the one that fits.
Armor, right, an iron armor is so generic and boring that you don't want to use that.
Yeah, steel armor is better.
I will even mix and match armors of different types, be it light, medium, heavy, just because it looks good.
It looks good. I'm trying to remember, there is a mod, an MWSC mod, that allows you to change the appearance of your armor, basically. Chat, if you remember the name before me, that'd be really good. So essentially you can wear your glass armor, but you can tell Morrowind to display Netch leather armor.
I think it was a mod by Operator Jack.
Maybe by OG. In that case, we're gonna go like that. It's a mod that I don't use, which is a bit surprising because I will wear the pretty armor. No. But at the same time, I kind of like making the sacrifice of the armor rating for the look. Cosmetic overrides, that's the one. Thank you. So
no problem.
That's for anyone who likes one look of armor but has better armor. Hello, Merlord. Haven't had a chance to make your greeting quieter. Welcome, Merlord. I didn't hear you come. How long have you been here? Cosmetic overrides, we found it. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Bashful.
We're going to sing to Merlord. Merlord, we love you. We love your mods. You personally, not so much. Okay, let's be serious for a second.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
He's very cool. Also, he's the leader of the Discord, so we better just be cool.
We have to be paid.
So for anyone who doesn't want to have to choose style over armor rating, cosmetic overrides is the mod that you want. Obviously, because it's a magic mod, you're going to need MWSE. That's how it is. That's
something worth mentioning about that mod is that I think it doesn't apply to shields.
Huh, okay.
Sadly.
I haven't even tried it. Welcome back, my lord. It doesn't say, but it doesn't apply for shields. That's fair. Didn't know you know. Let's go back to you and Morrowind Sharp. Tell us the beginnings, because this guide right here is the product of many months. Do I say years even?
I'd say years, and even more if you take into account when I started playing Morrowind. So, for those that do not know, I first played Morrowind, I think in 2015, after playing Skyrim.
Ooh.
And I was like, I want a game like Skyrim, and it turns out that the only games like Skyrim are all made by Bethesda.
Really?
So
I mean,
think
you can tell the truth. I interrupt you because it's important. You wanted a game like Skyrim, but better.
Yeah, pretty much. At that point, I was just content with anything that gave me a lot of playtime and that it was an RPG. And the first game I played was Oblivion, and I hated it. I played like 1 hour and I said, this is too ugly, it feels too floaty, and I don't like it.
Floaty?
And then I tried...
What do you mean floaty?
Your character moves so fast, it feels like you're floating on the ground.
I see.
And I'm a big fan of realistic movement. A lot of people don't like that, but I want to feel like my character is treading the ground that's below him. And then I played Morrowind, and I uninstalled it after 30 minutes.
No way. Why?
Yeah.
Because in Morrowind you feel like you're walking, like you're really walking.
So, and I remember thinking, okay, this game is ugly, it has no voice acting, it has a lot of words, I just don't want to play it.
I see.
And
You're the younger generation.
Yeah. And the next day I said, okay, I'm gonna give it another try. I'm like that. If I uninstall a game, it's probably I'll be reinstalling it the next day. And I reinstalled Morrowind. I still thought the game was pretty ugly, and I downloaded a mod called Morrowind Watercolor by Peter Beat. And it made the game so much prettier for me at the time, and I ended up beating the game. And one thing
is that what inspired you to make styled Morrowind, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah.
That was the inspiration.
Right. And it was funny because Peter Beat was very protective of his idea. He didn't want people copying him, even though a lot of people did. And I remember saying to him, okay, I want to make patches for your mods. I want to make a patch for a certain retexture, for this mod, And he told me, quite bluntly, you can make patches for your mods, just don't make patches for retextures, because Morrowind aesthetic is perfect, and I don't want people ruining the game with retextures. My English is pretty bad, so I apologize.
That's fine, we were following. There's no problem.
And that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to make my own Morrowind watercolored with blackjack and hookers, and that's how Morrowind style was born.
So, like watercolored, we see what it looks like. What sort of a style did you go for? We know there's a style, but what style was it?
Yeah. I wanted to make something that looked a bit more like a painting, but I wanted splashes to have some definition to them.
It feels sharper. You can see,
yeah. Because I quite like Morrowind watercolored, but I felt it made textures lose detail, like leather stopped looking like leather, wood stopped looking like wood, and that made it a bit uglier at times.
What I
Of course,
find
then
with what I found with Morrowind watercolored is that when you step back, it looks really pretty, but when you get up close, it doesn't work anymore. Basically,
yeah,
you don't see the
yeah,
texture
that's a
anymore.
big. And I wanted something that when you get close, the textures still look pretty or interesting. Um, and then, of course, Remiros came up with intelligent textures, so I dropped that. I dropped that one.
Yeah, there's always somebody to make your mod better.
Yeah.
Which personally, I'm not
And the
complaining. I'm not complaining at all.
yeah, no, for sure. And the thing I'm glad about is that when I was trying to make these watercolor patches, I found textures in Morrowind's folder that were uncompressed. They were slightly more detailed and had less compression artifacts. And that was pretty much my greatest gift to the community because Remiros then used that for his upscale textures and they look fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, I nod when you say they were not compressed, blah, blah, blah. I nod, but honestly, I don't know about textures and compression. And like, I save my file in DDS when I make an icon, but I don't understand what that means. But you sound like you do. Do you actually have a background in computer science or anything to do with graphics?
No, I wish I did. But if you look up Morrowind uncompressed on Nexus, you will see comparison screenshots that are pretty telling of the difference between a texture that has a lot of artifacts and one that looks clean.
Digital art. Thank you, Glisp, for helping me with English. You see? All right. Okay. One is compressed and one is not compressed. This one has more details, I think.
Yeah. And with some textures, it's not as noticeable. I know Remiros told me quite a few times that the best texture, the ones that were most noticeable, were the faces.
It is quite noticeable. And you mentioned that you found those textures. There's also a bunch of models, like meshes, that are compressed in the BSA, the archive of the game, that are not in even in the construction set. So there's a they've already been published, I'm sure, somewhere. But there's a bunch of models that are not in the game, not even in the construction set, but are in the archives. They're not all very good. So, was it called unused meshes, maybe? Unused? No, that's not it. That's not it.
I think a mod restored the Dwemer book mesh, but it was pretty bad.
Well, it's not very important. No, Daggerfall inspired. I like those. But if anyone is interested, they're around somewhere. They exist. They exist. Right. Back to your guide. So years. But when did you actually start, like, putting it into writing?
Well, I think it was 2018 when I told myself, if I were to reinstall Morrowind in the future, I'd want to have everything I know in a single place. So I started putting up together a Word document that had the basic tools like MGXE, MWSE, MCP, Patch for Purists, which I think at the time it didn't exist yet. I'm not quite sure.
Maybe it was still the Morrowind, an official patch. I think we have more. Anyway.
Yeah. And as I kept adding more mods, I thought to myself, okay, other people can use this, and other people can make it even better with some input. And you never know about conflicts in mods until you run into them in game. So that was basically when I said, okay, this won't just be a list of mods, this will be a guide. So I will know when a mod is compatible, when a mod needs to be edited, or when certain file has to be hidden. And over those 3 years, I kept building on it adding mods, removing mods, tweaking instructions, and that's what you see now.
For anyone who hasn't looked at the guide, there's actually two parts of it, and I actually find the setup, the Morrowind setup part, that should be pinned, printed, and delivered to anyone who wants to install the game. Like,
Yeah.
that's the basis of it. Yeah.
There, the bug fixes I wanted to keep on that page, because who plays Morrowind without patch for purists nowadays? Who plays
Some
Morrowind
people,
without?
I know some people, when I said that patch for purists was a must-have, they said no, it made some changes. It was someone who was really extremely purist of their game, and they did not approve of patch for purists.
Yeah, I don't like those people. I ignore them. But yeah, I said, okay, this section of the guide everyone can use. Everyone will benefit from it. And then I kept every other mod on the other page.
I would recommend. That's the thing with modding Morrowind, and you'll tell me if you agree or not. Feel free to. I think modding Morrowind is a little intimidating.
Yeah, I agree.
Like Skyrim, you get the vortex, and you go install automatically, boom boom boom, magic, and that's it's gonna work. It's gonna crash, but the game is gonna start most likely. Whereas Morrowind, you're gonna need, just like you put in your guide, you're going to understand this tool. It's not rocket science. Like, even somebody like me that never studied IT or anything like that, you can work it out. MGE, MWSE, Mod Organizer 2, or Rymash, or both, and you're like, it's a very steep learning curve. But once you've learned that, you're good to go.
Yeah, I think the negative about Bethesda games is that, unlike other games that have a single unofficial patch that does everything for you, it's very easy to get carried away and installing a lot of mods. That's just the way it is. If I make a guide with 50 mods, that's not going to stop anyone, and they'll say, okay, I want to install another 50 mods. I want to install another 100 mods, and the ride never ends. Yeah. But the good thing about this guide is that I play Morrowind using that guide as a base with very few mods on top, and it never crashed on me.
Now that is really quite something. But we're not gonna look at absolutely everything, but what you said, it's an excellent base for it. This part, the Morrowind setup, I think everyone should go through it, and once they understand it, that's good. What I would even recommend, when you got to the bottom of it and you have your basic Morrowind install done, I actually zip up my Morrowind, and every time I want to install the game, I unzip my base install of Morrowind, and then I add mods onto it. So that step, I don't repeat it every time.
That's a good advice, yeah.
Saves a little hour when you still have a week of modding ahead of you.
I think the one thing that's unfortunate about modding guides for Bethesda is that a lot of people wait until they finish the guide before launching their game, and then it crashes, and then they ask, okay, where did I mess up? It's hard to tell.
It's really hard to troubleshoot. Then again, like, I'll be the same. So look, you install your mod, you launch the game, you check that it's working, and then you install the next one. And in fact, before I did, I did write a guide, not the same thing as yours, not the same scope at all. Let me find it. What I got, good modding practice. I think there we go. Good modding practice. And it goes, before you install it, you look at it, and then you see if there's a conflict. You can use test review, you can use whatever tool, and then you check, you recompile the scripts to make sure it's fine, and blah and blah and blah. But I'll be honest, I don't do that every time I install a mod. I just don't.
No.
So do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, that I do. Yeah, I have another modding guide which is for Fallout New Vegas, and lately I've been installing a lot of mods, and I repeat this process all the time. I load up FNB edit, which is like test review, except it lets you edit your mod on the spot.
Yeah.
Great.
I think a lot of people would pay money for a test 3 edit.
Yeah.
That'd be
I will pay money for a test 3 edit.
I would.
And it really saves you so much trouble down the road when you know that your mod is supposed to be working correctly. Of course, a lot of people don't do that, and then they ask, okay, why does my armor not look like the mod I installed? Well, it's because you installed a rebalance on top, and it's reverting the mesh change for the armor. Mm-hmm. It's quite as simple as that.
Which is why it is so important to, like, just do it once. Understand that how modding works, and you're going to just remove so many errors from your install, and then you can tackle like the actual bug in the mod. But when you know you're installing mods properly and you understand what it means to put this mod here rather than there, and to take this thing and not that thing, it really helps. Really helps. So that part, everyone.
Yeah, I had a case the other day where someone claimed they had installed the mod, but all they did was just download it and extract the contents on their downloads directory. And that won't do anything.
No, it's not gonna work. I had a bug report where one of my mod prevented Tribunal from working. I always give the benefit of the doubt to people reporting a bug, but I'm like, I don't think my mod can do that. I don't think my mod are that powerful. Troubleshooting is difficult. It's difficult, especially when you're troubleshooting somebody else installed that you don't know what's there, how they did it. It's really, really tricky. No, I wouldn't say, please be saying Morrowind newbies. I'm not saying that because, like I said, it's not easy. And usually when somebody reports an issue that is just not knowing how to install the mods, I'm quite happy to explain so that, later they'll know how to do it. So that they're not newbies anymore.
I love helping out people. I just don't like it when they are a bit aggressive. Like, I did as you told me and everything is not working. Well, if you did as I told you, then you messed up somewhere. Unfortunately, a lot of people mess up Remiro's ground cover. It's probably the most problematic mod for people. I don't know. They just don't deserve it.
But again, and it's difficult to write. Like, your guide is extremely detailed, and I agree. Anyone who pays attention and follows step by step and doesn't try to go to Z immediately without going through the whole alphabet is going to have a game that's running properly. But it's a lot of letters. I forgot where I was going with that. Go ahead.
I try to keep things short and to the point and be thorough when I had to, like installing Remiro's mod. I think it's the biggest paragraph in the whole guide because I want people to know how to do it, but a lot of people just mess up in incomprehensible ways.
Well, reading too fast or thinking they know, that's the worst part, when you think you know. And then that's it. And I remember what I wanted to say. The other really difficult thing to do when writing a guide is to think about what is obvious for you, but it's not going to be obvious for someone, who's just installing mods for the first time. So it's really hard to go, okay, I should go into details here, or, well, duh, that's obvious. Obviously, you don't enable the grass mods when you launch your game. Duh.
Yeah, I had one issue once where I was following my guide as if I didn't know how to mod Morrowind. And at one point, I was asked to merge a mod, I think it was MWSE, into my Morrowind folder, and it asked me if I want to overwrite. And I was like, I know I want to overwrite that, but somebody else won't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
They will think, oh no, this will break my game, but that's not the case at all.
So it's just being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Glisp is saying he's got a bug when he first loads up the game. When he enters a building, is it any building, Glisp? Sometimes the game will say I stole something and attack me. The game attacks you. The NPCs, I assume. After the game, the bug disappears. That's an odd one. Do you get the message you have committed a crime or something, or?
Yeah, that sounds very weird. I never heard of that, but
Never had that one. And I've tried a lot of mods. I don't know if anyone in the chat actually has an idea, or if they've ever had something similar. Glisp, have you tried the tried and true method of disabling half of your mods, launching the game, see if you get the bug, and then enable half of what's left, you know? Which is incredibly long and boring, but possibly the best way. Notification mods say they witnessed me stealing something. Do you have No Cascade? I think it was called Witness. The Last Witness?
oh yeah, I think that was Greatness mod?
Yeah, it's Null's mod. And Null himself recommends not using it.
Oh.
Yeah, it was
when I
one of
looked at
the
it,
very first MWSE mods.
I remember looking at that mod like a few months ago and thinking, wow, this sounds like a great mod. Then I read that it is working. And that was too bad.
I don't know, maybe...
And the advice to disable mods one by one, it can be tedious, but I once solved crashing issues that I wouldn't have been able to troubleshoot any other way. It turns out I had installed a retexture for urns, and it was a mesh that was missing a normal map, and that was crashing my game whenever I came near Pelagia.
There's only one way. Like, I wouldn't say one by... It depends. For me, I have nearly 1,000 mods, so one by one, it's just not good. So I disable half of them, and if I don't find the bug, then I re-enable half of what's left. But anyway, the idea is to check. And Glips, you say you installed it. It's a pure Lua mod, so maybe the mod is left in your MWSE folder. It's a long shot.
Yeah.
It's a long shot, but who knows?
Yeah, that definitely sounds like Lua mod is doing that.
Because it's weird. It's weird. Like, Lua does magic and weird, but usually magic. Can you code yourself? Lucas, do you know how to code?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really handy. Me, I can't.
What?
I can't.
How to record this?
No, I mean, like, if you look at a code, like Lua code, you understand what it says. You can look at the script and go, yes, I want to use that. The script is solid.
Sadly, no. I know it will be great. It will be a lifesaver because sometimes you will encounter a bug very down the road. That was actually one of the reasons why I put off from including Ashfall into my guide for so long. I didn't want people to install a mod only for them to run into a game-breaking bug 20 hours into the mod. Then I tried out the mod myself, and I saw how often was Murlord updating the mod, and I said, okay, this gets the green light.
I think with Ashfall, trying it is adopting it.
Yeah.
In a lot of the cases.
It also makes Morrowind so much more alive. Like, everything now has a purpose. Even some random herb that you wouldn't have paid attention to in the past. Now you'll use it to make a tea, and that's great.
Yeah, I agree. Even bottles of water and all kinds of things. But we're not going to praise Ashfall any longer. We've done that often enough during the streams. But great mod, do get it. I'm going to zoom in because I'm guessing it's really tiny for you guys. You picked the pixel shader style water for MGE?
Yeah.
Which is the very, very vanilla one.
Yeah, I picked it because apart from being vanilla-like, I didn't like the water being so blue on Crocantor's water shader. It felt unnatural at times, like it was some sort of paradise, like a tropical resort.
So pretty.
And this water felt so much better.
I go for the eye candy, even though it might not be as realistic, but yeah, that's the one. I do like the pretty, though it varies between shades of green and blue. It depends on the region and the weather. That means absolutely nothing to me, but
it's currently sleeting in 2 degrees.
Crap, no, sorry. I didn't talk to you, Siri. Technology.
And one thing I would like to see added into the pixel water shader is the bug fix for the water level when you're looking at it. In the pixel water shader, there will be times when you can see underwater, but there will be no water shader applied, and that's very immersion breaking and can be easily abused to spot. I don't know how they are called, where you find the pearls.
Yeah. The collops. You can see the collops.
Yeah, that can be abused pretty easily.
There is I don't know if there's a screenshot of that here. Yes, there it is. Hang on. There's sort of a sweet spot. Come on, load. Where if you manage to put your character's eyes like spot on the water level, you can see underwater and you can see above water, which is always it's a cool shot. Like I like that.
It's very good. I want to see that.
Well, you got the wrong water shader. What can I say? No, it's honestly, that's one of the things, and that's something that your guide doesn't do, and I like that. I'm gonna put the link of that as well because those are the mods. The mods are not because you're quite purist. It's very vanilla friendly. It's a vanilla plus install, so you get that as a base for your game. And then if you want fancy green water, then you can apply the replacer you like. And if you want a night sky with the whole Milky Way in it, then you can apply that on top.
Yeah, I wanted to avoid mods that were pretty much a matter of taste. Even when it comes to gameplay mods, I tried to think of mods which I felt improved on the vanilla games more deficient aspects, like harder bars, which can be brutal, but the vanilla economy is so easy that had to be fixed.
Yes, it has to be fixed. Have you tried? It's a very new mod, so maybe you haven't. The inflation. It's an interesting concept. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh, I read about it. I haven't had the chance to try it out. It felt a bit weird that you could manipulate prices depending on how much stuff you're carrying. But it was interesting. It has a pretty cool icon, at least.
There, yeah. For people who haven't seen it yet, the idea is if you're super rich, merchants are gonna ask more for an item that they're selling, and I don't know if it works for the selling price as well. So as you say, it could be easily manipulated. Like before going to sell my Daedric stuff, I'm just going to strip and have nothing in my inventory, and I'll be able to make a fortune out of it. But that wouldn't be fun. That would be, I think, counterproductive. And so the idea is I think you can choose. Either it's based on how much gold you're carrying, or the value of the items you have, or the total worth of your inventory. I have tried it, but obviously with any sort of gameplay and rebalance mod, you need to play with it for hours and hours before you can go, yeah, that works for me, or not.
Well, there's this mod called... Yeah. Sorry for interrupting you.
Go ahead, there's which mod?
Hard Trade by Archmagister.
Axware, yeah. This one. Brutal.
Which
Love
I
it.
played. Yeah. The one thing I didn't like was that it made gold rewards pretty much pointless, because everything is so expensive that the 200 drakes that Caius gives you, you can't buy anything with it.
Yeah. That's one that I've used for the longest time. It's super brutal. In my games, I'm always poor. I'm poor. Like if I have 200 septims, I'm like, whoo, party time.
I'm great.
Yeah, like really. And if I get to 1,000, I'm like, I rule the world. What I really liked about it was the fact that if I actually decide to specialize in mercantile, speechcraft, and work on my personality and or luck, like it suddenly it makes the mercantile and the speechcraft skills relevant, because in vanilla mercantile you can cheese it, especially if you steal that lineware platter at the beginning. You can cheese it real quick. Speechcraft, you can spam it as well. So I like the fact that if I choose to have, I love role playing, so if I chose to have a character who is a trader, or he's good at negotiating and bartering, I can get good at it, and I won't have to suffer horrible prices for the whole game. So I like that about it.
Yeah. That's a negative aspect of harder barter, that your stats don't really matter much when it comes to selling items, because instead of say 9 gold, you will get 10 gold, and it's really unsatisfying.
It's a quick and simple way to fix the economy, but I agree. Between the two, I used hard trade more often. I've used both. I like that one because it's dynamic. Like there's progress in the game. But then you're right. When you get 200 from Caius, you can't even buy chitin cuirass with that. However, to sort of palliate to that, I absolutely love card gen mods. So I will get some starting gear that varies depending on my class and blah blah blah. So I get starting gear, better starting gear than in the vanilla game. So it sort of offsets that.
Yeah.
But good one.
There's a bug with harder barter which I fixed myself. It's not so much of a bug fix as it is a little tweak. So the way the harder barter formula works is that it lowers the prices of items you sell based on a formula. The problem is that the formula kicks in for items that are priced 11 gold or more. And what ends up happening is that items priced from 11 to 40 gold are actually cheaper than items priced 10 gold. So I had to adjust the formula a bit to make them more expensive and more valuable.
I see.
It's hosted on my miscellaneous mods page.
With the patches and everything. I also noticed, let's see if I can scroll down and get an example of it, a number of mods, which and now I'm not seeing it, but you have a number of mods where you actually have a tweak for it, not something that's even published on the Nexus, I think. Was there, what do I remember? Stealth. Is that a good example of it?
Yeah, and there's also a pickpocket, which are both.
Very good.
I would love to see those tweaks hosted on the Nexus, but Mort is like a person that doesn't really pay attention to what you tell him to do. And that's why I basically bundled the fix into the mod and added it to the guide, and of course linked to the original so people can still download it and endorse it.
Mort. I mean, I don't blame people updating a mod on the Nexus.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just such a pain.
Yeah, sometimes I update a mod and then I realize, oh no, I forgot to update the README. And I say, okay, I'll leave that for the next update.
I'll be honest with you. I used to have update the README because I would always put it in the doc. And what I do now, when I upload the mod the first time, I put my README and that's it. I do fill in it's not here. Mod doesn't do it. I do fill in the changelog faithfully, so that you do as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a time saver.
Exactly. Like it's good for people when they see there's an update and I go, okay, what's changed? Like, do I need to not download the mod again? But it's also super important for me for mods that I update very often because I have multiple versions on my computer as well, because multiple installer. So I need that. So the changelog I update faithfully. The README I don't re-upload it every time. I'm like, no. Who reads it?
Yeah, the one thing I like to see changed on Nexus is that it lets you have different changelogs for different files. Because in my miscellaneous page, I have lots of little mods, and the changelog just merges all of the different changelogs together, which can be cumbersome.
Yeah, because then it's really difficult to keep track. I think what I've done for wares, because I also have a bunch of optional files. So I used to put the changes here, and now I just put C changelog and that's it. But when I update the minor ones, then I do write what I changed, because again, it's for me, otherwise I'm not gonna know what I did and when I did it. So yeah. Well, get in touch with the Nexus people. A while ago, they were collecting feedback. It was mostly about their notification, that they wanted feedback on that.
Yeah, I think something that would be really cool is whenever you endorse a mod, it automatically tracks it for you. That way, you don't have to press endorse and then track, because the tracking feature is very useful to know when a mod is updated. With Ashfall, it's a lifesaver. With mods that are updated on the regular, it's essential.
I don't track mods. I don't.
Why?
You see, like even if I go to mods that I always have, like Ashfall, I don't track anything. But then Ashfall, Merlord has included, when you load your game, if you have an outdated Ashfall, it tells you.
Yeah.
So I think he got tired of people reporting bugs of older versions that were already fixed.
Yeah.
Which is possible.
I'm like, oh, my setup is complete. Oh no, I have to update Ashfall.
Yeah, like I started making a new install before Christmas. That was a month ago, and then I was away. And now I'm like, I might as well just scrap it and start over, because there's new mods, there's updates. You can, like, the final ultimate Morrowind install does not exist unless you play vanilla. Like, if you're a hardcore purist, then you're good. But otherwise, we are doomed to mod the game forever.
It would be nice if the MWSC installer also warned you when an update is available, because a lot of times new mods use the latest update, and then when you launch the game, the mod isn't working as intended.
Isn't there I don't use Mod Organizer 2, mostly because I have thousands of mods and I just can't stand waiting for 2 minutes for the virtual file to be built.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great tool, but I don't have the patience for it. But I think it does tell you, right, when a mod has an update. Do I even have?
It works sometimes, and many other times it doesn't work. I advise against people using that as a guide because there's no substitute for tracking your mods on Nexus. It's what I recommend people to do.
Track your mods, people. I'll start. Okay, you see my mod organizer install doesn't work. And also, I think it relies... Oh, yes, it does work. Okay, never mind. I think it relies... Shush, go away. It relies on modders, when they're updating their mod, to actually keep track of the version, and not everyone does it. So...
And it can be a really pain in the butt when you have a page with multiple files. Because if they all have different version numbers, my organizer just doesn't know what to do about it.
Track your mods, people. I never track mods. And you know what? I don't track mods, and if I look at my own mods, but not here. I don't have an example. Maybe Panoply will do. If I look at my own mods, no, it doesn't work. It tells me that there's a newer version. Like I have not downloaded the newer version of my own mod. Because I have it on my computer, so it's like, oh, there's a newer... hang on, that's mine. I don't need to download that. I'm good to go. Good to go. Do you want to tell us about... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that a lot of times mods are updated not because there was a bug that needed to be fixed, but because the author brought back a mod that was updated like 3 years ago, and they made a lot of good changes to it, and the tracking feature is there to let you know that. It's pretty useful.
That is good indeed. I promise I will start tracking mods. If I remember. Yeah, it will help. For me, mostly what I use is when I look at the mods, I can sort of skip the new ones I look at, but otherwise I go, okay, up, need to download that, and then go up, need to download that, because it tells me that there's an update available.
Yeah.
So I know there's something for me to look at. We don't want that right now. Ooh. There's new armor there. Anyway, getting distracted with mods. If only people could stop making mods so we can play the game. Oh, there's a question for you. How often do you play the game? Not counting playtesting, because that's not playing, that's testing.
Well, I will play the game like every single day. Not necessarily for hours, but maybe 20 minutes. Lately, I've been playing a lot of Fallout New Vegas, so it's been like a month since I last played Morrowind. But I keep track of mods that are being released. I actually knew about this mod, the Inflation. I'm always on the lookout for new mods to add to the guide. I don't really like adding mods that I think are cool just because they are cool. I first see if I consider them to be essential. Like if they add a feature that it should have been there in the game since the beginning, I'll add it. Like Murlord's Just Drop It was such a good mod that I said, okay, this has to be in the guide.
Yes, I agree, it's essential. Essential.
Everyone has seen cliff racers land on rocks, and it's just so uncanny that you want to fix it.
I don't think anyone would say, I don't like it. I like things to stay neat and vertical, even if the ground is vertical.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is definitely an essential. Which reminds me, I really need to update my own guide. I do have one with only 15 mods, but I think Just Drop It would be a valuable addition to it. But
I saw that guy.
It's they call it Morrowind Guide for Virgins. I was not very inspired. But I will say that I do explain how to install the game and essential utilities, and I took the time to make little GIFs. Again, it's tiny. So I took the time to explain that, but I think you are going even more in depth than I do.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
And earlier we were talking about how modding Morrowind can be intimidating, and a lot of it has to do with this sense that you're installing a lot of tools and utilities, but you aren't installing mods yet.
It's like 2 hours later.
Yeah,
it's like...
and you're thinking, okay, why am I installing this thing? Why do I need this utility? Why do I need this mod manager? It will all come together in the end, I promise.
Yeah, but it's true. Like, you have to spend, I think if it's the first time, you will spend easily an hour installing things, checking you're in the right directory, setting it up. And after that you go, okay, now we can install a mod. You go, what have I been doing for an hour? Just preparing your game to be modded. Which would explain the success of mods like the graphic and sound overhaul, because it was like, so click, 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 select, install, and you were done. And I don't blame people for choosing that option, because modding is not fun for everyone. Shocker.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are used to installing like maybe 2, 3 unofficial patches. They are not prepared for a guide that has like, okay, 5 utilities, 10 bug fixes and optimization mods. It doesn't make sense to them.
Well, I agree. I agree. The same reason why Morrowind Rebirth is so attractive, because it's one mod, and you install it and you have a new game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
I know a lot of people hate that mod, but if people love it, people love it.
Like, there's a lot of people who love it, and I don't know if you maybe you haven't played it because purist.
Yeah.
But it does have a lot of redeeming features. There's a few things that I don't like at all, but it's not bad. Like, I would never tell anyone, no, install anything but that. It's a matter of taste, so we let people choose what they like.
You pretty much have to be willing to accept the fact that if you use Morrowind Rebirth, it's quite possible you won't be able to install a lot of other great mods. But that's fine, it's a compromise.
Exactly. Then again, if you understand modding well enough, then you can make a patch, like, you can make them compatible. But I think it defeats the purpose of installing Morrowind Rebirth in the first place. Like, if you're gonna have to make patches. Right, let's have a look at the mods that you did select. So now we're starting to install mods. Shaders. Shaders is still a very obscure part of modding for me. Like, I know how to select them, enable them, and drag them up and down, but I only do it because that's what they told me to do in the shaders channel of the Morrowind modding community Discord.
Plus, a.k.a, I suppose it is pronounced. He comes up.
I say Ftastic, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
to which they're wrong.
He makes so many cool shaders that it's hard to keep up with them. Plus, the updates all are scattered around the channel that it was complicated.
It is
making the
quite intimidating. Good news for Open Morrowind users, now they do have a nice variety of shaders to choose for their game, so that's cool for them. Zero Fox is saying, I barely understand shaders and I've done a few. How? How?
When we so hurry.
Thank you, Ftastic.
Yeah.
Great guy and super helpful. Like, I am amazed by the patience of so many people. People like Null who get all kinds of questions for MWSC, Ftastic for shaders, Murlord for Ashfall, Abbott very often helps people in the troubleshooting. Like, they have the patience of angels, explaining
and
over and over again basic things, for us basic things.
and it has to do a lot with how the Morrowind community is so supportive of new users. And they're like, okay, I can help this person because this person will maybe make a mod tomorrow and I will use it and I'll have questions about it. Of course, they don't expect people to do that. They are just happy helping each other out.
I have a question about modding. We can help you, but you're going to sign a contract in blood that you will publish at least 2 mods per year for the next 20 years. Not like that, we promise.
And it's so amazing to see so many mods that have been a work in progress at the Morrowind channel for so much time, and then they are released and everyone loves them, and you remember, I was there when you were making this mod and you had a lot of questions and you thought to yourself, I won't be able to release this, and here it is.
Yep. So in case you don't understand, guys, the Morrowind modding community Discord is a great place to be.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like if you want to mod yourself, or if you just want to be able to install mods, it's a good place to be. People are nice enough. They're nice, seriously. So shaders, yeah.
So long as you don't ask whether a mod is compatible with OpenMW, then it's all fine.
Yes, there's a couple of questions. When will Ashfall work with Open Morrowind? Or when will insert mod? Or is it compatible? But I think it's become a bit of a meme also. There aren't that many people that seriously ask the question anymore. Stay out of general. I don't go to general often, unless I'm summoned there. Alright, so shaders, patch for purists that we talked about a while ago.
Yeah.
Considered an essential, honestly. Patch for purists is a result of years and years and years and years and years and years of work. Patch for purists is reasonably new, but there's been various versions of it before, and each one improved on the next one. So I would recommend it, definitely.
And I think it's very commendable that Half 11 is always interacting with users, and it lets you know that he's working on the patch. Because again, comparing the Morrowind community to the New Vegas community, the unofficial patch for New Vegas, there's radio silence. You never know if it's been worked on. With Patch for Purists, you know it is, and the update will get there when it gets there.
Actually, is it very, very different? Because the only modding community that I really know is Morrowind, so I can never compare. Does it feel very, very different between the Fallout modding community and the Morrowind community?
Well, for starters, you have MWSE for Morrowind, which is bundled in with MGXE. And in Fallout New Vegas, you have like 10 different plugins that all serve the same purpose. And that's when you ask yourself, why didn't you just make it one? Why don't you merge them all together?
Probably because the modders don't work together.
Yeah,
I'm guessing. I'm guessing because in Morrowind, MWSC was a third-party program for the longest time, and at some point, I believe it was Null and Orangedam, another name that I'm probably butchering, so apologies. Who simply talk together and say, "Hey, can we work something out?" Instead of saying, "I want people to use my stuff."
And the cool thing about the Morrowind community is that if you take a look at the setup, the shader section, and the patches section, you'll find that it's basically the same 8 people working on all those mods. It's a very close-knit community.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, if you want to comment on any of the mods that are there, or if there's one in particular that you want to talk about, go ahead. Maybe we're not going to describe all of them. Most people will use them, hopefully.
Oh, sure. Yeah, expansion delay is a mod that it's listed on the bug fixes section. It's not really a bug fix, as everyone knows, but the way Bethesda implemented the expansions was so bad that this mod is pretty much unessential, and it's so much more superior to the alternatives that are out there that just say, okay, the attacks will commence when you're level 8, or this one Imperial Guard has his son sent to the Blood Moon, to Solstheim, I mean. And Half 11 is very thorough with their mods. You are just amazed by their work.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. And the funny and sad at the same time, the way Bethesda introduced the expansion, which is by badly and right at the beginning of the game, let's say in a clumsy way. Let's say that.
Yeah.
They did exactly the same thing with Oblivion. Like, a few years later, the way they introduced the DLC, if you have all the DLCs installed, you get 6 or 7 notifications before the game starts telling you, I have received a note to go to this place. I was told to do it. And you're like, hang on, I don't even know who I am. My character doesn't exist yet. It's so weird.
Unfortunately, that's a problem that's very common with Bethesda games, because even New Vegas, which was not made by Bethesda, but which was made based off Fallout 3, which was made by Bethesda, has 4 DLCs, and the 4 DLCs greet you as soon as you exit the tutorial with, I'm here in a transmission, I need to go this place. And it's just so tiresome. Of course, there's also a mod that delays them later in the game.
My huge wish for Bethesda and future Elder Scrolls title, I really, really hope that they talk to modders and modding communities that know the games inside out, to decide what to do with the next one. But I don't think they'll do that. Like, they will have, what's it called? Focus groups of gamers, but because, okay, this is Morrowind, I know Morrowind. Anyone who mods Morrowind will be able to list very quickly the glaring issues. The economy, the lack of throwing weapons, like all the things we've mentioned before, and, a few more. And at the same time, they'll be able to say, this is what makes Morrowind really good. The alien world, blah, 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 blah. And you can do that for every game and every community, and they'll be able to pinpoint what they should really try to introduce or reintroduce in the next title, and what they should maybe try to stay away from, like making a clone of a game that already exists. Wishful thinking.
Yeah, it's there's something about the Elder Scrolls Online that was pretty funny, which happened recently, about a Morrowind themed update they released, and it had a lot of weapons, new armor, and the people at the Morrowind community loved it. They said, "Oh wow, this is really good. Bethesda is doing something great for a change." And I think that's more like the type of DLC I would like to see in these games, because what happens is that the DLC is always end-game content. And often it feels strange. Not so much in the case of Morrowind, because you can still play after the main quest is over. But in the case of New Vegas, you are pretty much forced to do these DLCs before you finish the game, and it disrupts the pace of the main quest. Dead item mods, you can just drop them in the world, give them to NPCs, insert them into level list, and off you go.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward at all to the next Elder Scrolls titles, or is that something you don't really think about?
It's not something I think about. By comparison, I'd better say I'm more interested in the Fallout franchise, but I don't expect anything about the next Fallout game. And regarding the Elder Scrolls, I fear that Bethesda is going to push simplification even further. That's something that remains to be seen. I don't know how much more you can simplify Skyrim. Hopefully they will backtrack on that.
So there's a single button, you left click,
Yeah.
or you bash A, occasionally B, so it's not too boring. I don't know. I'm like you. I don't think about it. I have zero expectations, because expectations is what gets you really disappointed. So
Yeah, I believe they'll make a linear game and they'll say you have two choices. You can go forward or you can go backward.
like basically
It
your
just won't.
character is on the rail track.
Yeah.
And a single equipment slot for all non-jewelry you're wearing. Exactly.
Yeah.
You
Hey,
mentioned
we
you.
already have that. We already have that info in New Vegas. There's only one outfit you can equip.
Wow, that's not good. That makes me sad. You mentioned that you played Skyrim, Oblivion, and Morrowind. Did you go back in time and try Daggerfall?
No, the reason for that is pretty simple. I wanted to play Daggerfall, even though I've heard pretty bad things about it, about how it's so much randomly generated. But it has a certain appeal for me. I think it's the aesthetic, the old game graphics. But because I think it is a DOS game, it can be somewhat
Originally, yeah.
hard to get it to run on your computer. I know there's an open source implementation. Daggerfall Unity, I think it's called.
Yeah.
I've yet to try it out.
I would really recommend any new player to just play Daggerfall Unity without mods. It's got a pretty good modding scene as well.
Yeah.
But yes, Daggerfall Unity I think is a must for unless you've played the game when you were young and you've learned to love the problems of the game, which I think is something we've done with Morrowind, for example. I would say Daggerfall Unity. It's different.
Over time you just live with the problems. Like there was a time when I will install an animation replacer for Morrowind walking, and now I don't even notice it.
You don't notice the replacer, or you switch back to vanilla?
I switch back to vanilla, and I don't see anything funny about how people walk. They just walk like that.
I think the worst. I don't have a replacer for the walking and running animations. I may have the one for the casting animation.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's it. But come on, the Argonians, they look so funny. Argonian and Khajiits, the beast race, they just look so funny. But I've
That's
learned
so
to love that. Like, I look at them and I go, you walk funny. And, and then proceed to play the game.
I was just thinking that it would be so funny if when they had to run, the Argonians and the Khajiit got on all four legs and they started running towards you.
That would be pretty cool if they, yeah. I'm not really in the know with Elder Scrolls Online, but when the Morrowind DLC came out and there was that Khajiit and she looked really cool, wasn't she crouching at some point and like jumping? Maybe I don't remember it very well. But that would be cool if they went on four legs for a sprint.
Yeah, I just imagine them running like that. When they had to go very fast, they'll just get on all four legs.
That would work for the Khajiits. I don't know for the Argonians. Like the Khajiit, I imagine they're very agile. Their animation is not, but they should be. The Argonians, I don't know. We'll suggest it to Greatness 7 when he goes back to working on animations. We want Khajiits running on four legs. I was going to say, Prof mentioned that with Daggerfall Unity, it's true, you have an option to make the dungeons smaller. Because as you said, with Daggerfall, the randomness of it, like it's massive, but also randomly generated. So especially the dungeons, they would be like, it would be easily 2 hours in a dungeon to find what you're looking for, especially if it happens to be in a tiny room that's hidden somewhere. That could be very frustrating. So having the possibility to reduce the size of the dungeon, like you can complete your quest in a dungeon before you get completely bored with it. To simplify.
Yeah, I mean, 2 hours in the dungeon is like 4 times the time it takes you to get to Dega Third at his cathedral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was too much, but it could be still interesting. I think it's a good experience, even if you don't end up loving the game and playing it for hours. It's for me, it's a game completely different from Morrowind. Like it's Elder Scrolls, but it's just not the same game. It has its redeeming features.
Yeah.
But let's go back to your guide. I keep changing the topic. I'm sorry. I actually hadn't noticed that for Project Atlas that is on the Nexus, and I believe everybody uses now. But you also have an unofficial add-on.
Yeah, and
that
recently they were talking.
Yes.
They were talking about merging the two, because the Atlas add-on is only featured on GitHub.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
recently they were saying about merging them together and releasing them on Nexus.
That would be good.
Yeah, one less mod to download and install.
Exactly. Oh, what are your thoughts on Wabberjack, if any?
I have no problem with Wabberjack if mod authors want to do that. They want to make their guides available through Wabberjack, that's great. But I've had a couple of people ask me if I can do the same about Morrowind Sharp, and my answer was no, for a simple reason. I already have a lot of people asking me what mod is making it so that I can run faster when I run sideways, what mod is making it so that gold is so hard to get by when I sell my items. And I'm like, didn't you notice that you install a mod that says harder barter? And if I made a Wabberjack for my guide, the questions will just skyrocket.
Mm-hmm. I get that. At the same time, I would imagine that people using Wabberjack are the people who want it's going to be more than one, but a few click install and don't want to customize their game further than that.
Yeah.
But I'm like you. I'm in favor of, teach a man how to fish rather than give him a fish.
Yeah. Plus, I like them knowing what they are installing, because they can say, oh, I'm not interested in this mod, I'm not interested in this mod either, and so on. And I feel like giving them one-click installer kind of misses the point of a guide. You're not teaching people anything, they are just mindlessly clicking on installer.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Like, better to learn how it's done and understand what you're doing. And then, but it's not just like, the principle of the thing. I want you to understand what you're doing. But mostly it means that then they will be able to mod their game to perfection. Even though I said a while ago there is no ultimate install, but it opens up so many possibilities for you.
Yeah.
User interface. And I'm looking very quickly. You don't have a graphic replacer for the UI in particular.
Oh, vanilla purist.
Vanilla purist. Honestly, the vanilla UI is pretty good. I like to make mine a little sharper and cleaner, but I'm not a fan of a Skyrim UI or the red Oblivion inspired UI.
Yeah. I actually uploaded a picture of the Oblivion style UI the other day on the channel, and I was like, I can't believe I played with this.
You
But it's
did?
been so many. Yeah.
I tried it on Oblivion. Am I going to find it here? I tried it for Oblivion, but even for Oblivion I didn't like it. No, I'm not finding it. It's not very important. But I still see when I take a look at people playing Morrowind on Twitch, I still see people using it. So
Yeah, it's one of the most popular UI mods from the old school of modding, I'd say.
yeah, you're right. It feels very very 2000, maybe 2005 for Morrowind. That's the one I quite like to use, the UI revamped. A lot of people use chocolate because it keeps the palette. Ah, there it is. Found it. Dark
Folks
UI
is saying the
Redux.
phrase use open MW, it makes the game stable. Yes, it does, but the vanilla game can also be stable if you know what you're doing or following certain guides.
And he's right. A lot of people come with the idea that Morrowind will crash all the time, but of course it will crash if you install the graphics and sound overhaul that everyone recommends. You just have to know what you're doing.
That's what it is, and we're going back to explaining to people how to install mods. It's not fun maybe to learn it, but then if you know how to install your mods, then your game is going to be a lot more stable. Like people like Abbott, who has, like, I have a lot of mods. Abbott has an even larger mod list than I do, with all the land masses. Like, it's huge, and he hardly ever crashes. Hardly ever. Because it comes down to installing your mod properly and knowing what you're doing. With Open Morrowind, I think people tend to have fewer mods. Like, I've seen people having 300 mods on Open Morrowind, and that's the most extreme mod list that I've seen. So yes, Open Morrowind can be more stable.
Yeah.
By virtue of having fewer mods, and then the engine possibly. I don't understand enough of the engines to actually look at the code and say, yes, this is better.
Yeah, when you have a game that only has like 10 mods available to install, it's much easier to get them to run together as intended than having like 2,000 mods available for download.
And then I haven't played vanilla Morrowind on its own, but I'm fairly certain, I am sure that if you have vanilla MGXE MCP patch for purist, just that won't make your game crash. And with Open Morrowind, true, with Open Morrowind you don't have MCP and you don't have MGE. You can have patch for purist. So Open Morrowind, you get the same result without installing any of the mods, I guess. At the end of the day, it's for everyone to decide. Like, I don't have a problem with people preferring Open Morrowind. I do have a problem when people tell me I'm dumb for not using it. But that's how it is. Oh, Smart Journal. Why did you pick this one?
Well, in the latest update that Abbott made for the mod, he added an option to add a little line of text that whenever your journal is updated, you get told, okay, my journal was updated on this particular quest, and because of this happened. But it adds an extra empty line on top of that line, and it looks odd. So I said, okay, this is not particularly essential, and this empty line really bothers me, so I just tell people to download the old version.
Agreed. What I really like about this one, I use it as well, so I was not trying to trick you or anything. What I really like about this one, especially for people who have a massive mod list with lots and lots of quests, knowing where the quest comes from really helps, including for troubleshooting. So
Yeah, that can be very.
very useful. I don't think I have seen modlist on your guide, which actually it's called modlist. Yes, which makes sense because it's on its own. However, that's something that I would recommend to anyone who has some mods, simply because it's super quick. You open your MCM in the game and you have your mod list, and it's automatically copy pasted onto a clipboard or anything. And so when anyone comes in and say, I have a problem with this, if they can provide the mod list, it includes the MWSE mods. And I think it's an invaluable tool for modders to help people troubleshoot their games. So
Wow, I didn't
I
know
would
about
add
that
it
mod.
even to your guide. That is like the essentials. It's not gonna really help
Yeah.
people, but if they decide to install things on top of it,
Yeah.
even you will be able
Def-
to say, but hang on, you have this mod, it's not in the guide. I don't know
Yeah.
what the problem is. If just that.
Yeah, there are a lot of mods that I don't use, but I know they can be somewhat problematic. Like Morrowind comes alive, it adds a lot of NPCs and such. Well,
MCA.
Morrowind Reverse and other mods.
Thank you for mentioning Morrowind Comes Alive and not Friends and Foes. That's very generous of you. Friends and Foes can have problems as well, which really comes from the sheer size of the mod. It's like this.
Yeah, I installed it once. It was pretty massive. Like I talked to an NPC at Balmora, and I was pleasantly surprised that you could recruit them as a follower. But like I said, I'm trying to be vanilla purist. I try to avoid mods that add new quests, new NPCs, a lot of dialogue, and well, of course, texture mods, meshes mods, and so on.
That when you said at the very beginning that your first impression of Morrowind was that, oh, it's ugly, but at the same time, years later, you're actually not trying to change the aesthetic of the game anymore.
Yeah, I think that intelligent textures makes the game look really good. And of course, weather mods make the skies look better, the lighting look a lot better. I think my modded Morrowind install looks better than my modded New Vegas install, which is kind of funny because one game came 9 years later.
Yeah, you have watched the skies.
But I think the game looks good enough as it is.
Okay, interesting. How, from a first impression, that's what we were saying, right? You learn to like
Yeah.
even the things, because obviously if you look at Morrowind with the original textures and you put that next to a newer game, like if you ask most people which is the prettiest, they're gonna pick the HD 4K game, and I am not blaming them for that.
Yeah.
But Morrowind has its charm, let's say it like that.
Yeah, a lot of people love the mushroom trees, but I find that the most interesting thing to me about Morrowind's aesthetic is like when you are in the Ashlands and you see a Daedric ruin, the contrast is so great. It's beautiful.
So is it like, what I find always impressive is especially when you have that red sky and you see the line of the ruin, that is very ominous. That's what you mean as well?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It looks good. One of the things that always gets me, even though I've been playing the game for a long time, is when I enter a tomb. I remove the music from my game, so dungeons I only get the ambience, and when I enter a tomb and there's those whispers, and if I could be tiptoeing in the game I would, but I feel like I'm tiptoeing. I'm just so careful, so afraid.
Yeah, it feels like you're disturbing the spirits and they're telling you go away, Outlander.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, okay, I'm not scared. I'm I'm a hero, goddammit. But yeah.
Well, one mod that is not featured on this section of the guide, because the guide actually has 3 pages. It has the setup page, the main page, and if you browse to the bottom, you will find an add-on page, which has like 100 more mods.
I'm not seeing it at the bottom. Oh, additional mods. There we go.
Yeah. And I think one of my favorite mods from Operator Jack is the enhanced detection, because it makes Tomb looks really great when you can see the spirits across the walls and you know they're waiting for you.
Yes. Generally speaking, the whole Magicka expanded suite of mods is really good. I particularly like, it's always fun for me, is the telekinesis enhanced.
Yeah, that's really great. I never used telekinesis before, but ever since I installed that mod, I will use it whenever I get the chance, because I just love watching items flow towards me and see the spell on the container. It looks great.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I see that you have a map and compass. It's one mod that I know I should love, and every time I installed it, I did not keep it. In the end, when I wanted to not have the map, I just went for the old mod by Null Cascade that just removes it completely.
Oh yeah, no compass.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, and I think it's Pete the Goat that made a little update for it, so I don't have the map, but I do have the tiny mini map, so that I know if I'm looking north or south, because that was the only thing. I was like, where is the north? Can you just tell me that? So that's what I use.
Yeah, when I install map and compass, I thought to myself, the vanilla map is not particularly useful because it's so pixelated you can't even tell where you are. And even though it's not fully accurate, the map that shipped with Morrowind has a lot of important landmarks. And I said, okay, this is a suitable replacement.
What I would absolutely love, and I have to talk to JC, I believe it's one by JC originally. What I would absolutely love is the ability to, in dialogue, to talk to a local and say, okay, where am I? And then you get the marker on the map, rather than when you enter the city, you get the marker straight away. So if you find somebody, even in the wilderness, actually all of a sudden to meet somebody in the wilderness, an Ashlander, say, excuse me, where am I? Can you show me on the map? And then you get a marker. I would really like that.
You mean like a temporary marker that gets replaced whenever you talk to somebody else?
That's even better. I didn't think about that, but yes, even better. Like you can have only one, and when you can talk to an NPC and you have a dialogue option that says where am I, and it updates your map, and when you talk to someone else, then it removes it. I would really like that.
We'll have to bring that idea over to the Discord channel.
Yep, I'm taking a note in my exercise book. I'm very modern. I have exercise book and post-its. Multiple. Too many.
Great.
I tend to lose them afterwards. But yeah, a where am I option. Or even keeping the vanilla map, just to disable all the map, the markers, and yeah. Anyway, let's not talk about mods that don't exist just yet. Essential indicators for me is essential, especially for new players, because Morrowind can be a little bit. It's a good thing that feeling of you get there and you go, where am I? Who am I? What? Who? The what now? That feeling of being utterly lost. I just wish I could relieve that playing the game. I do get that a little bit with Tamriel Rebuilt.
I think that the only negative thing I have to say about Morrowind's lack of map markers and so on is that because the game is designed with that sense of wonder when you first play the game, that sense disappears on a repeat playthrough because you already know where the Dwemer puzzle cube is, you already know how to reach Caius Cruzades, and all you have to do now is walk over them.
which is exactly why I'm so big on randomizing as many things as possible.
Yeah.
So if I have a mod, that's what I wanted to do with wares, where I know that whatever this armor set is in the game. Any bandit, any crate in any dungeon might have that armor, but I don't want to know that. All I have to do is find that abandoned Hlalu mine that is just south of Balmora, and there I will find, I don't remember what you find there. You find good stuff there, okay? I don't want to know that if I want that thing, I just need to go there. It will be there. I want to know that any enemy I kill, any crate I open might have something. Actually, will have something new. I like that.
Well, luckily, I don't have a good memory when it comes to that kind of thing.
That helps.
So when I read a Daedric rune, I say, okay, I know there has to be something cool here because Daedric runes are like that, but I'm not like, I know there's a certain piece of Daedric equipment here. No, I just go in there if I feel like it or skip it.
I like that too. To the point that with Killing Spree, that adds loads and loads of weapons, and the best ones, I actually hand place them in the game. And when I find one, I'm like, ooh, wow, I had no idea this was here. I put it there, but I didn't know. Like I wouldn't be able to go, it's in there, in that dungeon.
When I was making my integrations mod, one thing that made me a bit sad was thinking there will be no sense of wonder to me because I'm the one placing these things. But there will be times when I'm surprised and say, oh, I had forgotten about this. This woman has a crossbow that's pretty cool.
I like that. And especially for the weapons, having weapon sheathing where you can see the weapons on the NPCs is just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Agreed. I see you selected companion health bars, which is one of my must-have mods. I'd even say that the companion part is a little bit misleading because many players say, I don't do companions. Hate them.
Yeah. But there are so many escort quests and it helps a lot knowing how much health that pilgrim has left.
Or if they're still following you, like if you lost them because you were running too fast. Absolutely, yeah. I would put this one in the essentials, honestly, with easy escort.
Great.
I mean, it's essential for me. That's what I'm saying. Kill command is so much fun as well. Even if you don't have companions, if you use summons, it's just so frustrating when you summon something, and because you're level 1, all you can do is summon a ghost for 30 seconds. But it takes the ghost 20 seconds to realize what's killing you, where it is, and how to get there. And by the time they enter the fight, they go...
I never thought about that, but it makes a lot of sense now that you say it, because I just never use conjuration spells. I will only conjure up a Bound Dagger, which is kind of our power in the vanilla game.
A little bit.
And I've already talked to Half 11 about fixing that. But yeah.
Yeah, really useful for summons. Works with companions, any escort quest people, and summons. That's really, really cool. Ooh, Kargen Revamp Expanded Land, which we're gonna have to use a little bit longer until Merlord finished the Lua version of it.
Yeah, I was such conflicted about adding this mod. When I made this page, I said, okay, all the mods which I feel are cool to have but not necessary to experience will go in this page. And I also have Solstheim Tomb of the Snow Prince, and they were not compatible with each other because Chargent Revamped Expanded Lands was made for an older version of that mod. And I had to dig around to make a patch and make them both compatible, and it works just fine.
That older version of Soul Sign, by the way, Wooly himself said it was crap. He said, don't use it. So
Yeah,
I'm
he
telling
should
everyone,
hide the
don't
mod.
use it. But he had it hidden for a while. I explained it when he was on stream. He had it hidden for a while, but some people actually preferred it, so it's still there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but it's so often, like, there's so many modders who don't like their mods. You mentioned Stripes, who said he didn't like his Tomahawks, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
If you talk to Remy Rose, like, he would tell you to not download half of his mods, even though they're fine. Maybe not perfect, I guess.
Concept art Balmora. Very nice game. Very nice mod.
Which one is that?
It's the one that added like shutters to Balmora windows and a few other things.
I like that.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty nice mod. It's simple. I like simple
Very
town
nice.
and city overhaul. Particularly because they have few conflicts with our mods, like those that move around guards or change them and modify ownership and so on.
Yeah,
It's a nice mod.
I'm not a big fan of the bridge there,
Yeah, the bridge looks a bit goofy.
but it's a lightweight overhaul, just enough to give it a little bit of personality.
Yeah.
But then Balmora has so many overhauls. So,
Yeah, it's like the most popular city in the game.
and the second one is Seidanin. It's a close second with Seidanin. All the Magicka expanded games, not games, but mods, definitely. Oh, I'm glad
Yeah,
to
I had
have
to
this
tweak.
one. Yeah, go ahead.
Which mod? More exclusive factions?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I found it not long ago and I thought this is great because I like mods that restrict your choices but in a good way because they put more weight on the choices you've already made. And it was lightweight, compatible, and I say, in it goes.
I think it's definitely an underrated mod. It's really good because it's one of the criticism people have of Skyrim and Oblivion, that the factions are meaningless. Not only can you become the leader of the faction very easily, but you can be the leader of the world. Whereas in Morrowind, there's a little more. It's a little more complex. You can join only one house. Some people will like you less based on the other factions you belong to, and this pushes that a little further even. So yeah, I like that very much. Good choice by Lucivar and Alice. Religions elaborated healers. Is that a special version of it?
Yeah, it's actually a stripped down version of the original mod because the original mod already makes it so that you can join both factions when you belong to one or the other. And I think that is already included in more exclusive factions. So I had to make a stripped down version of it, which I thought was a really nice feature.
I'm trying to remember because Lucivar was also on stream and we talked about it, and I'm not sure that more exclusive faction did the temple and thing, or rather they did not conflict, that one would supersede the other because with the Lucifers and Alice's mod, simply they don't let you join at all or easily, whereas with Karis's mod you can join both factions, but if you become a high-ranking member in either, then the others say, I'm sorry, you can't advance further because you're a leader or a major member of the other faction.
Oh,
And I don't remember, like we looked at both mods and one just superseded the other, but I don't remember which way. All that is one, but they kind of work together.
yeah.
I win. Yes.
When I found that mod, I was like, this is a very nice tweak because luck, to a lot of people, it just means, well, you are more often attacking the other NPC, you receive less damage, but it was kind of boring. It made so much sense to me that luck influenced the loot you were getting from containers.
And my biggest problem with luck, yes, it does increase the odds of success for everything you do, but in the gameplay,
Yeah.
you don't feel it. Like, you don't really feel it. But even this is very, very subtle.
And I feel like it makes a lot of sense for a thief character that you expect. Okay, thieves have to be lucky because they are always risking their necks, and they'll get better loot.
Absolutely. There is actually one downside with lucky loot, which is not going to be a problem for people following your guide. It does get not really problematic, but if you have friends and foes, because the loadout of friends and foes is all level list, it means that the enemies you get, the luckier you are, the better gear they get. So it might be a little harder to kill them, but then you get better loot. So
Yeah.
I decided that it was just the game balancing things out on its own.
It makes sense. I mean, you need to be able to kill those strong people in order to get their cool armor.
Yeah, I mean the people have the same level. It's not like, but it's a side effect that is well, it's there. Wings of Will necro edit, but you know I'm gonna have to get all of those things. Secret hidden things. What is the edit?
Necrolition is just so knowledgeable when it comes to scripting, and he makes a lot of tweaks that I personally will be unable to make by myself because I don't know about scripting like he does. And so whenever he finds bugs in a mod, he reports them, and if the author doesn't address them, then well, he makes the fix himself, and I just simply cobble it up together.
So what is the? Do you remember what is the tweak compared to Sataniel's mod?
Yeah, I think the problem was that with a given stat, you will move through water faster than you were intended to, and so his mod fixes that, so it no longer happens. I can check it up on Nexus because he always leaves the comment.
All right, good. I'll switch to that version. Oh, I absolutely adore wading in water. It's one of those little mods. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm reading the comment now. He says, when you're levitating underwater, you're still levitating. You're swimming as well, and the third person animation is the swimming animation. And the levitate magnitude and now willpower affects your speed. This means if your willpower and speed are very different, you can greatly increase or decrease your swimming speed by casting levitate.
I see. So it's
those
possible.
kinds of obscure, complicated bugs that you can account for.
Okay, so definitely something to download and use. Yeah, I was saying wading in water is one of those mods. When you use it, you didn't know you wanted it.
Yeah, I love just dragging people, I mean NPCs, over to water and taking advantage of their reduced movement speed.
There's something that I still have to try to do is kill somebody by drowning, which I haven't succeeded yet. Like the idea is to get on top of their heads and prevent them from coming up to the surface. It can be done.
Well, the other thing, I found an NPC that had spawned in the wrong place. He spawned below a ship and he drowned.
Well, yeah.
And the poor guy floating there.
Tough start in life. Tough end of life, I guess, as well. Definitely. So yeah, that's a good one. I am quite curious. I don't want to go too fast, but love this. But basically, every mod you have listed there, those are things that I I can't play without, but only because I'm a mod addict. And I don't know how to stop. I really don't. So hard. Silver tongue, love it. Yeah.
I think realistic repair is a very underrated mod because a lot of people just see it as a balance measure, not to carry hammers and repair prongs and so on. But what they ignore is that the enemy loot being damaged upon dropping is such a massive tweak to the economy. New Vegas has a similar mod that does the same thing, and it really makes a difference in this game.
Absolutely. For me, I like it for a number of reasons. Got too many windows now. There's the realistic aspect of it that honestly, there's the tomb, the one next to Pelagiad, where you go for the main quest for the skull. And there's a chest that always has a repair hammer. So what I would do, I would open the chest, get the hammer, but because I don't want to carry it, right here, right there, in the middle of a tomb that's supposedly really quiet and with ghosts and skeletons, I don't know, I would put the put my armor on the floor and hammer it, and it's like, it makes no sense. It's not realistic at all. Even though I would agree. Yeah.
I was thinking that would be a cool mod. You know, you just drop your gear on the floor, and with a hammer equipped, you can click on it to repair it.
But that's, I mean, I think we talked about it with Merlord. I could go along with, if you want to do some wild repairs without a proper forge and an anvil and a proper gear, then you can repair, but the maximum durability of your armor is reduced. So you have to show. Cool. I think that would be pretty cool, but maybe that's just a little too much realism, because it's true that there's a balance to find between this is realistic, but this is just not fun to do. So it's always something difficult to find. But I like realistic repairs because honestly, it doesn't make sense that in the middle of the dungeon, when you're sneaking and fighting for your life, you would bang a heavy hammer against a piece of metal. It doesn't make sense. So I like that it prevents that. But what I like even more is the fact that when I'm in town, especially with Ashfall, it's the evening and I say, all right, I'm gonna get a room, I'm gonna get breakfast in the morning. Like I get ready to head out on adventures. Like, and checking that my gear is repaired is part of that. So it adds a roleplay element. It's also nice to have those anvils everywhere.
Yeah, and I think that's a really underrated aspect of this kind of mods, which is that they reinforce role-playing because you no longer have to do it in your head. It's all enforced by the game mechanics.
Mm-hmm. You do it. And what you mentioned with the enemies, and this is great, and you even have a slider in-game to decide how much you want. And it makes sense, like when you fight someone, you kill them, and you take their armor, and it's in pristine condition. It doesn't make sense. And what I like, apart from the realism, which is good, though sometimes it doesn't work, here it does work. What I like about that is that finally the armorer skill is useful. In most games, my armorer would be, you know what, when I have hammers, I repair things. And when I don't, I don't. And now my armorer skill, I'm getting those items that are damaged. If I'm good at repairing things, I will be able to make a profit out of it because I have a skill. I like it.
Exactly.
I like it. Is it really underrated? Only 3,000 downloads, which is quite a lot for Morrowind, but you're right. It should be more than that, I think.
Yeah, one thing I've always wondered was how many downloads or mods feature on the guide getting, but it's impossible to track that sort of thing. I know that the Viva New Vegas guide, a lot of mods featuring that guide have received a considerable download boost from being featured.
I'm pretty sure. I think Corsair was saying that his repair add-on. Where is it? There. That's his mod that gets a lot of download, thanks to your guide. Obviously, other people will download it.
That's great to know.
Like among
Yeah,
all of his mods, this one is in your guide and this one gets the most downloads.
I'm quite happy that a lot of mods that will be often overlooked get more traffic because I think they're great mods. It's just that they're not so eye-catchy as others can be.
Exactly. It's true that there is a sort of a bias that people, when they look at mods like textures, because you can see straight away, you go, oh wow, that looks beautiful. You can see it's a texture. And then gameplay mods or MWSE mods, I think, get a click just because people know that it's going to be amazing. Quest mods, house mods tend to not get as many downloads, even though they especially quest mods are going to take a lot of work and a lot of skill to put together. So I'm always a little sad that quest mods don't get as much love.
Yeah, and I think the issue with quest mods, it's like pretty much with gameplay mods, you have to experience the whole thing, and a lot of people don't have the patience for that, myself included. I think I only downloaded a handful of quest mods, which I played from beginning to end. One of them was the Talos Cult Conspiracy, which I thought was pretty nice. But when it comes to the big quest mods, the ones you know have a lot of work going behind them, you just don't want to play through them. But I mean, that's a personal issue I have.
It's like exactly, and I would say, yeah, but you know, once you've done all the quests in Morrowind, you want new ones. But who has done all the quests in Morrowind? No one.
And not
Well, maybe some people have actually, but not that many. Know thy ancestors, love it. Absolutely love it.
that made such a big difference for me. Tombs are no longer just a simple entrance. You can actually see who's buried there.
I like it. And there's a tiny mod. Crap, I'm not going to remember who. It's like it's an optional file on the mod page, where if you kill an NPC from a family that has an ancestral tomb, if you go to that tomb, you're going to meet their ghost, probably angry.
Oh, I think it's called Ghost Revenge.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not a main mod. I think it's an optional file somewhere.
I think it's from Red Furry Demon, I believe.
It could be Red Furry Demon. Red Furry Demon, who did the splash screens also.
Yeah.
That's how I find a mod when I don't remember the name. I go, what else did that, which I love. I think I saw you had splash screens, but they are vanilla widescreen, right?
Yeah.
Not new ones.
They are. No, one of the modders actually took down their mod when the whole Nexus fiasco went down, where you couldn't delete your mod anymore. And it may be a bit selfish from my part to re-upload a deleted mod, but it was so good that I just didn't feel like it had to be deleted. So sorry if you're watching this stream.
Well, I mean, it's really a compliment to the mod. No, there's no ghost on that page, so maybe that's not it. But it is a small, like, miscellaneous mod, small mods, collection of mod things. But I don't think it's RDF. Rotat. Part of Maik on the mainland.
Rotat, yeah.
Thank you, Prof. Would Maik work? No, because you want.
There's another mod which was by R0, which is called Flies, which also has a bug where it places the flies underwater.
Yeah.
And Prof.
There's a fix for it. There's a fix for it, yeah. Ghost Revenge. You had the name right, just not the right author. And I like that. I have never, well, I don't murder people, But I think if I go, hey, I visited your tomb, like your ancest's tomb before, let's try something. So I like that a lot, and I think it goes really well with Zero Fox's mod, Know Thy Ancestors.
The mode that I quite like from that page, but which is not featured on the guide, is Corpus Natives. Because it really feels like the vanilla Corpus creatures are disconnected from the rest of the NPCs in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Had an intelligent textures patch, I will definitely add it to the guide.
We will have to tell Rotat about it. Where
Yeah.
they're blue, basically. Is that what it does?
Yeah.
Dunmer version, yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah, and they have red eyes and the pointy ears, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that feels like something that makes sense, like an oversight on the part of Bethesda, even. Profib saying that he combined flyers with a water level check that is in patch for purist. So now dead bodies in water don't have flies. Which was a bit funny. I actually really like when there's a bug in a mod or a conflict between two mods that create something unexpected. Because then you can go on and invent a story or just imagine how that could possibly happen, even though it's totally not possible. So I find that fun, even though sometimes it kills my character. Often. Chunkless
sometimes bugs
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
can really great stories.
They can be fun. They can definitely be fun. Chunkless Graceland is one of the mods where the modder, R0 in that case, said that they don't like it and they don't use it.
I think it's great.
That's the thing, right? It could be somebody's jam and not someone else's. I have used it for the longest time, but then compatibility becomes annoying.
Yeah, I actually had to make a patch for Melchior's Dwemer Pavements mod.
Mm-hmm.
I never bothered with landscape texturing, but I had to learn just a little bit to make that patch.
Would you say that you have picked up a number of skills while modding the game?
Yeah, in the past I would have never bothered to launch the construction set because I was so used to using FMV Edit in New Vegas that using a construction set or the GEC in that case was totally foreign to me. But there are so many conflicts that can only be fixed by firing up the CS that I had to do it.
I see you have Pincushion. Did you try Axe Magister's Enwa Shooter mod, I think it's called?
Yeah, I tried it out and it was actually featured in the guide after I removed Pincushion. But the thing was that being able to pick up the projectiles, I don't know how to describe it, but I felt like I was doing it all the time and I felt kind of guilty when some projectile was left buggy floating in the air or something. And
you had to tidy the crime scene.
Yeah. And I didn't care so much about the other feature where it adds some kind of arc to the arrow. I felt it was a bit exaggerated, so I reverted back to Pincushion.
I see. It might be a case where realism gets in the way of gameplay. Because it is true that if you shoot an arrow high or straight, it will go further or not as far. But it certainly made it harder to aim with the game.
Yeah, I feel it was exaggerated because in Morrowind you wouldn't notice the difference otherwise. But in that case, it made it just far more difficult to gauge your aim.
And if it was Skyrim where archery is OP, especially combined with stealth, I would go, why not? Why not make it harder? But honestly, marksman in Morrowind is far from OP. So I don't feel the need to make it much harder than it already is.
I actually much prefer Marksman rebalanced by Murlord that adds some
Quality of life improvements to archery, like in traditional first-person shooters, where you crouch and your accuracy increases, and that's a distance-based accuracy variable to marksman, which I felt made sense.
It does make sense. Though, to be fair, Merlord's mods and Axe Magisters don't conflict because they do different things.
Yeah,
So if you wanted to, you could use both.
yeah, exactly.
There it is. There, Prof, there you are. Your edit of flies is right there. Is that something on the Nexus? No, not even. You see, Prof, if you put that on the Nexus, you will get all the downloads.
Yeah, go ahead, do it. But I understand a lot of people don't feel like uploading tiny mods to Nexus because it's just so cumbersome.
Yeah. And then the more pages you have, the more, what's the word? The more updates you have to do and support and that sort of things. So I get that. Aura, lovely. I really, really like modding my soundscape in Morrowind. I feel it's the sort of things you don't see, but you feel the effects so much.
Yeah, and well, for the longest time, I avoided using sound mods and music mods for Morrowind because I was pretty convinced that the vanilla sounds were so iconic that everything I changed, I would instantly notice, and everything that wasn't changed would be jarring. And then I tried out Aura, and I thought it was a great mod. I had to make a little mod called Quieter Doors and Spells because those sounds were still a bit loud. But that was basically it.
And I'm gonna guess that you were talking about walking and how you like to feel that you're walking. I'm guessing that character sound overhaul probably was a game changer for you.
Yeah, because we all know how the vanilla walking sound is, that tuk 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 tuk, and this made such a massive difference. It was a game changer, really. It made long treks through the world so much more satisfying.
I agree. That's definitely, for me, that's a must-have. But then I have way too many must-haves. You
There's
mentioned
a minimum bug.
yeah.
There's a minimum bug. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There's a minimum bug with Character Sound Overhaul and Project Atlas, where the sounds won't play on wooden meshes like those of the docks.
Huh. Okay. And is there a workaround?
I think the only current workaround is to disable the offending meshes. And I know Anumariel was planning to fix that, but he still hasn't gotten around to fixing that yet.
Yeah, updating and fixing mods is definitely not as fun as making them.
Yeah.
True. But even as it is, it's very, very good. Excellent even. Which in fact, that was during the modathon last May, that was the winner, hands down, in terms of download, endorsement.
Oh.
Yeah, it was the best mod of the month. If we look at the Nexus metrics.
It's a very nice mod.
It's really, really good. And like even when you go in the water, you get different sounds. Like it's like, get it, people, download it.
So good.
Yeah, you mentioned flies, which for me, I it's almost an audio add-on for me. Like sure, there's the flies flying, but it's more the sound for me that I get in the game. I'm a little surprised that you don't have the other sound atmosphere mods that Arrow made, like the doors, or maybe they're further down the line, maybe?
It used to be in the guide. I eventually removed it. I guess I could add it back to this optional page because that's what that page is all about. Why I removed it was because it was like a separate addition to the game, as opposed to flies, which basically gave a visual effect to a sound that was
Already there, I see. Like tunnel cough with the miners coughing.
Yeah, that one I removed mostly because I was thinking of mods that I didn't notice after installing them. And I realized that unless I was actually trying to pay attention to miners, I wouldn't notice that mod was even installed.
Fair, that's
and
fair.
I really don't like following mod guys that list like 300 mods, but you won't even notice half of them.
What about this one? The store entrance chimes.
That was a very nice mod. I was sad to let it go. But I allowed it back to the optional guide, and I actually had to add back a few mods from Merlord, like the one that adds class-based equipment and quick loadouts, which he said was essential to his experience.
Are you sure it's quick loadout or quick equip?
No, quick equip is on the main guide, and quick loadouts not on either.
I love most of Merlord's mods, and I have quick loadouts. I often forget to use it, but that's probably because I kill my characters too soon. But hang on, and then you use his class equipment. We're gonna have a discussion, you and me. Equipment, I can't type.
Okay.
It's not showing. Because I also like clack starting spells. Where is Merlord's mod? Not me. Yeah, what's wrong with the head of the classes?
Oh, I haven't used that mod yet.
The story behind it is that Merlord made his class starting gear, which I can't find right now. What is it called? Class equipment? No. Class start. There we go. No, starting spell.
I can't remember the name at the moment.
Merlord starting equipment. Got it.
Oh, that was it.
The very first version of the mod was exactly that, where for each class, Merlord looked at the illustration and then gave the player those things. And then, of course, the extra code for the custom classes. And then I said, yeah, but Merlord, there's a shitload of classes from Tamriel Rebuilt, and there's a number of mods that add new classes. And so I completely reworked the loadout of the classes, including the vanilla non-playable classes and the Tamriel Rebuilt classes and everything. And then I said, yeah, but I want more. And when I want more, I have two options. I can bother Merlord and say, Merlord, I like your mod, but I want more, which sometimes work. But in that case, I felt that I could do it myself. So I took all the classes from all the mods that I knew. I added more, and I reworked the starting gear. And what I like the most, I'm my mod. I'm doing my own promotion right now. And by the way, don't feel that you have to put it in your guide, okay? But what I like the most about my mod, the basis is Merlord code. So that I did nothing with that. So it has all these classes, the new ones, but then if you have these mods that add items, like Olaf Best Cloak, whatever it is, if you have a mod that adds the Guar Whisperer that adds a whistle to call the Guars, if you decide to be a herder, then you're going to start with a whistle from that mod.
That's pretty.
that was pretty cool. And I was like, Lord, I have a question because I don't understand codes. Is it possible to add? I can show you the notepad. It's probably still open. The config file. Yes, there it is. That's very similar to Merlot's mod, and I was like, okay, if I put a mod from Tamriel, I can make it dependent on Tamriel. Cool. I can make it dependent on OAAB. Why not? But then I say, yeah, well, what if I have Morrowind crafting? Can I put the ID of an item of a mod? And even if it's not in the game is not going to crash, because vanilla would do that. If you have a script that says, if the player has that item and that item doesn't exist, Morrowind goes, game over, crash. and he modified the code so that I could do that. So then I have, like, it's a lot of classes. It's a lot of classes and a lot of loadouts. And then I was like, okay, if I'm an acrobat, what mods do I use when I'm an acrobat? And I'm going to use Ashfall. Maybe I'm going to be pretty good at surviving. And it took a lot of time to put these together. So it's the same as Merlot's mod, but better. So says I.
I think what's interesting about this kind of mods is that it takes more time to think them through, like what items is this class going to have, what items is that other class going to have, than it takes to put them together.
True and not true, because when I put it together, it was really like going through the catalog of mods that I know and thinking of things that could go in there, and then looking up the ID and putting it in there. And then, of course, making sure that I didn't mess it up by forgetting a comma or a bracket, which is a big no-no in coding. I've learned that much. And then what took me as much time, really, which is very, very stupid, is when I wanted to make the description of the mod. And I say, okay, I have to tell people what they get, because some people care. So no, that's not it. Sorry, that's not of the week. Where's the head of the classes? There we go. And then I had for each class to write down these for information, because they were new classes, and the gear. But obviously in my original one I had those things. So then I had to go back to the mod or the construction set or the wiki to find out the original name of the item. That took as long as making the mod. And that was a lot of time.
When I was making one of my Lua patches for VTV, I had that issue where I misplaced a comma or I mistype an ID and the game would just crash.
It's like, most of the time when it doesn't work, I look for the missing comma or the bracket or the space, and sometimes I find it and sometimes I don't. So I go to Merlot and say, Merlot, I tried to edit this code or this script and it didn't work. And he looks at it and says, a comma there. And I go, damn it.
Yeah, that's what I like about scripting so much, is that people who do this for a living, their eyes are trained. They spot the error instantly.
Mm-hmm. Maybe not instantly, but very quickly.
Yeah.
Let's not minimize, their work. But yes, they have an eye for it, but I don't. And you talked about BTB. Let's go back to that. We said we would talk about it, so before I forget again, and start talking about my own mod, which is not the point. BTB game improvement. Tell us everything.
Well, so BTB made a very, very extensive game overhaul for Morrowind called BTB's Game Improvements, which is itself based off Wakim's Game Improvements, which is an older and a bit more obscure Morrowind mod.
Oh, back in the days, now I sound like a grandmother, but back in the days, Wakim Games Improvement was big.
Oh yeah?
It was the main rebalancing mod before BTB.
That was way before my time, like 10 years before my time.
Fair. I was the prime of my life. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
And well, what BTB said was, Joaquin made a lot of great tweaks, but there are a lot of balance issues in Morrowind that still need fixing. So what BTB said basically was, if I can fix something, I'm just going to remove it from the game, which is how he nerfed enchanting, alchemy, self-enchanting. For instance, you can no longer self-enchant your items. You have to pay an enchanter for them.
That's
And
harsh.
a lot of people
That's
dislike.
harsh.
Yeah, that's harsh. A lot of people dislike some of BTB's tweaks, like miscellaneous skills no longer grow naturally. But what I find myself when playing with his mod is that many of these tweaks are just natural. Like, if the vanilla menu for enchanting was edited to reflect the fact that you can no longer enchant items yourself, it blends in very well with spell making, because as you already know, you can make spells on your own. You have to pay someone else. And because miscellaneous skills don't grow, it makes your initial choice of build that much more important. You can still pay for training. You can still level up your miscellaneous skills if you want. I think it makes so many good changes to the game that I can understand why people place so much emphasis on the negative aspects over the positive aspects. And some of the tweaks I made myself on my tweaked version of the mod was, for instance, to decrease the gap between the powerful sets of armor and the weaker sets of armor. We were talking earlier about how glass is so much better than chitin. And one of the things I did was make glass heavier, make chitin a bit lighter, but also make it more durable and have more protection. That should hopefully
You
give people.
You know what would be fun with glass armor? Like keep the
Yeah.
high armor class, but have a 0.1% chance that it just breaks. Like durability just goes to 0, because you don't damage glass. It's you break it or it's still there. That would be
Yeah.
a mod people hate, but that could be fun.
That's very true. In fact, when you think about it, like, I know helmets, for instance, in real life, if a helmet gets dented, that's a very serious risk of death right there. It's not like it is in a game. A dented helmet is a helmet you cannot wear again.
Yeah. Or if you get hit on the head and you have a helmet, you die instantly. If you don't have a helmet, well, you take damage, which is better.
Yeah.
But yeah, their
And,
durability would be 0 and impossible to repair. Or,
Yeah.
I guess we could.
And I made a lot of tweaks to BTB's mod based on a lot of feedback I got from other users who were also playing his mod, which were the minority, because as we know, the Discord channel, most people, I'd say like 99% of them, do not use BTB's mod. And so I rely on that 1% to tell me which things they feel could be done better, which things could be changed. And I made a lot of patches for many other mods, like my of Ashen Blade data integration mods, some patches for Ash Stars mods, which are very lore friendly. I wish Rockin' Vanguard made upscale textures for those mods, and I'm really satisfied with how it came out. Last time I played the game, I was like, I don't really have anything left to change about this. I was pretty satisfied.
You say that very few people use BTB in MMC. Like I can't quantify that, but at the same time, the people who do use BTB Games Improvement swear by it. So it's a small following, but extremely loyal.
Yeah, I think a lot of people hate BTB's mod on principle because they think that removing self-enchanting is like a crime against Morrowind.
No, your explanation of it was good. Like I can go. Sorry, I can go along with that. It's mostly removing something that is fun in the game. Like it's removing a fun aspect of the game, I guess.
Yeah, and his mod makes a lot of other changes that you just can achieve automatically with a Lua file. Like harder barter makes expensive items become progressively cheaper, while BTV's mod, for instance, just puts a cap on the Adric items, so they are 3,000 gold at most, which is a great
Honestly,
change in my opinion.
Daedric items for 50k.
Yeah, that's
Like I get it. They're extremely rare. The way to make them is lost. Like people don't know how to make them in Morrowind. So the value represents just how rare and precious they are. But that's another example where realism, if something is rare, possibly unique, in the case of Daedric armor, it should be priceless. But in terms of gameplay, what it means is you go to Creeper, you drop it on the floor, and then you go and sell and buy and go and sell and buy and go and sell and buy until Creeper has 50k to take that armor off of you. And that's not fun. Again, personal opinion, it's not fun.
Yeah, I think that the problem with BTV's mod is that to a lot of people, Morrowind is not meant to be a balanced game. Because when you think about it, a lot of things about Morrowind are based on a sense of realism, like Daedric items being so expensive, like a lot of items being somewhat worthless, but when you look at it from a realism perspective, you think, well, not every item has to be valuable or has some use. This is like a real world.
That's actually one of the very cool things about Morrowind, that you can pick up a worthless wooden spoon. The fact that you can do it is amazing.
Yeah, and personally, I think Morrowind is a very unique game with so much content, so many possible build choices that you just want to make those choices count. And to me, that's where BTB's mod comes in.
Now, it's true that BTV's game improvement it's always been a love-hate sort of thing. People loved it or hated it. I've never used it, and I really ought to give it a try. I've never used it, but to be fair, I've never used any sort of general overhaul of the game, because I always felt, that's not true, I tried Rebirth, which does that for a number of items, but it does other things. I didn't try it, like, so I don't, because I'm always worried that it's the vision of one person that feels, well, this should be really cheap and this should be really heavy, and I'm not entirely sure that it actually has any effect on my game. So I've never tried one. I will try BTB so I can actually form an informed opinion on it. And back in the day, when BTB game improvement was quite new, one of the things that turned me off was the fact that BTB said that he'd never played a game. And I was like, how can you rebalance the game if you haven't played it? Obviously, and that's what I wanted to point out, there's a whole interview with BTB on my blog, and he talks about it, and his website is still up where he talks about it as well. So if you're curious, go and take a look. Obviously, it was not random. It was based on many other games that he had played. So it was still an informed decision. But I remember at the time thinking, well, if you haven't played the game, how can you balance it? I thought that was funny.
That's actually quite funny, and funny in a number of ways, because when you start thinking about it, you say, why are you undergoing such a massive rebalance for a game you barely play? What motivates you to do this thing, right? We rebalance a game after we enjoyed it for years, not after playing it for 2 weeks, for instance. I'm not sure if BTB meant to say that as a jest, or he was being serious, but it's commendable work either way.
It is, and the fact that the changes that Necro did, and then you and the fact that it's based on actually playing with the mod. Where is the question? What makes Morrowind special? There we go. There. I'll make it a bit bigger. Rather famously, in the Morrowind community, I've never played more than a few hours into the game. So that is true here straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, I think it says a lot that there was something in Morrowind that captivated him enough to say, I want to fix this game, even though I've only played for a handful of hours. A lot of people just don't do that. So I think that his mod, if anything, is a testament to how great Morrowind actually is.
I agree completely. But since the latest rendition of BTB game improvement is not only based on BTB's improvements, but Necros and then yours and all that done with feedback of people who have been using the mod a lot, that makes me want to try it with an open mind and see if it actually improves my game. If it feels more right.
I think the only thing I would change at the moment is that while I did make beginner, so to speak, the lower level armors a bit stronger, I think I may have made them just a little bit too strong, but that's something I would have to change, because I felt like quite often I wasn't in any real danger once I got my kiting armor, which of course is not my intention. I did go to lengths to remove those kinds of armor from early game level list, because what's the point in making armor stronger if you're going to find kiting as soon as you enter Alamasartus? I've also made it much more expensive to buy, so hopefully you'll only be able to buy a full set of kiting once you've done quite a few quests in Balmora.
If I'm not mistaken, actually, I think Ariel has, in the vanilla game, he always has a kiting cuirass. So you can get one from that. But if you've increased the price, then it's still something to work on.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that because realistic repair makes loot damage, it means that you really need to be a good armorer in order to repair the armor and get it basically for free. Or you have to spend a lot of money to buy it and then a lot of money to repair it as it gets worn down.
Yeah.
So basically you're sort of forced to use Netch leather for most of the early game.
It's not good news for vanity players like me. Like I want to have pretty things, and I want to try things on and shop for them and match them. When we did the stream with Ruffin, we looked at the armor and he was telling us, the inspiration and everything. And while he was talking, I was mixing and matching the armor, the different sets of armor to make the most beautiful outfit. And I thought I succeeded, honestly. So if you want to mix and match Ruffin's armor, it looks really good.
I think that's a great aspect of Morrowind's armor system, which is you can really make your character look unique by mixing and matching, and you just don't get that in a lot of other RPGs.
Definitely not the later ones.
Yeah, it can be a blessing and a curse, because when you have to make an armor set, you have to go through like 8 different armor pieces, whereas in other games like Skyrim, you just edit like 4 or 5. And the same thing with level lists. You suddenly have to add like 8 different pieces into a single level list, which normally would be just 3 pieces like pants, chest, and helmet.
If you like mixing and matching clothing and armor, definitely give Daggerfall a try. Daggerfall had even more clothing and armor slots than Morrowind.
Oh, I did take a look at what armors look like in Daggerfall. I was kind of disappointing to see that a lot of them were just color swaps.
Yeah, and also it's not completely, but also your character is really a paper doll. So it's really quite funny
Yeah.
that when you click the armor has a shape like that because your paper doll has a shape like that. So that's quite funny. It's not perfect, but truth is the clothing in Daggerfall is quite enjoyable. Like you can make different outfits. I enjoyed that. Okay. I'm not sure it's enough
Yeah,
to
that's
convince
not-
people to play the game, but all right. Anything else with BTB that is worth not BTB but BTB game improvement that is worth mentioning?
I think the mod is great on its own, but there are a few mods I would recommend to use alongside it. The first will be, actually both of them are by Necrolition, who, as you said, maintains the official version of BTB on Nexus. One of
It's
them is
getting
Class
complicated.
Conscious. Yeah. Class Conscious Character Progression is a really great mod. It's based off the old Elsias character development, which I never used. But because it
Because
is
you're
all
too
made
young.
in Lua, yeah, it's a very efficient mod. It's very fun, and it really makes your build that much more unique in a way that you just can't get by simply disabling miscellaneous skill growth and such.
I really like that
And
option.
the other,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really good. And the other mod I will mention is balance passive races and birth signs. I think I saw you uploading a mod that deals with birth signs, which adds many variations.
Yeah.
I
Now
wanted
let's
to make
talk
it
about why
much.
that one is not on your. Go ahead.
I actually want to try it out. I was a bit overwhelmed by the amount of different options, but I quite like that you try to account for different options, like different weaknesses and so on the same birth sign. So you had a number of options to choose from. I would say that vanilla birth signs are pretty boring. They might as well not be there for the most part. I could even say
Apart
that
from the Atronach.
yeah, could be a racist like trait or power instead of a birth sign.
Yeah, I agree. Birth signs for the most part is sure you get plus 10 to your attack if you pick the warrior. So what? Like,
Yeah.
is it going to change how I play the game? So sure, you have the buff. It's cool. It's nice, and you'll be better fighter. But it's not going to change how you play the game. I agree.
Yeah, and there were other classes like other races like Nords that get a thunder, I think, or a fire spell, but it won't matter in 10 minutes, and you can only use it once a day. So
Yeah,
what?
the
What were
power.
they thinking? Yeah.
The birth signs are nice, but they don't do much really. There is and I think I know Pluto re-uploaded that older mod, birth sign redux. Yeah, this one, the definitive birth sign pack. And I know it's definitely not going to be up your alley because it creates birth signs. But I really like it because I'm very much into role playing. And so choosing a birth sign that says the Tinker when I want to be crafting things, like it helps me create my character, and not just creating the character on the character sheet, but it helps me decide how I'm going to play the game. So this one, even though it's not vanilla friendly, I always thought it was fun for anyone who likes to role play, really.
And I actually quite like that it has illustrations for each birth sign from what I can see. Not many modders will go to such lengths to make their mods blend in with vanilla.
But then it's a choice, just like you were trying to make mods that do not impose BTB on other people. I like to make mods that do not prevent people from using other things that they enjoy as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that one of the big issues I had with Morrowind Sharp was after I removed BTB from it, I had to in a way replace most of the things that mod did, which were not controversial. And I don't think I quite succeeded in that, partially because I just can't be bothered, because BTB does so much things like restoring diseases for a number of creatures and other similar things that it will take like 20 mods to replace them all.
Yeah, the disease creatures, there is a half 11's mod that does that. The Nina's mod does that as well. They both do it in slightly different ways. But you're right, when the mod is so large, to find something for each, comprehensive, thank you, that's the right word. Definitely. We were talking about balancing things. I don't really go for the overalls. I will try BTBs because I'm curious now. For me, the two mods I need to balance the economy is either harder barter or hard trade. So that's the one, to make sure I can't buy things and make a fortune out of things. And the other one is the mod by Remiros, if only I could type. Equipment requirements, that one.
Yeah.
And it's not realistic. In fact, every time I make fun of it because I find a sword or I find a pair of boots and I go, ooh, I don't know how to put them on, which is stupid. But in terms of gameplay, it means that, sure, I know where to get an ebony short sword without having to fight anything for it. I just have to go near Balmora, where the Hlalu stronghold is built, and I'll find it. It's there somewhere under a rock. Like, I know where to get those special items, but even if I get it, I won't be able to use it because I don't have the skill. And if I try to sell it, like, it's worth 30k and I'm gonna get 200,000 at best. It's like such a waste. So for me, that balances my game without really, it's not meant to be an economy rebalance, but that does it for me. I don't go for those expensive and powerful items from the beginning because I know I can't use them and selling them would be a waste.
I think that a good compromise for that mod will be so that only medium and heavy armor, as well as weapons, of course, require high skills. Because when you think about it, light armor, the only powerful light armor you will find in the game is glass. And that's a pretty late game armor that's not quite as easy to get.
But like it is easy to get. You go to Ghost Gate, you go down to the blacksmith, you steal it, you drop it, done. Like it is easy to get if you know where.
I can remember. What happens when you steal something and drop it before you're caught? Does that mean that the item is yours after you're released from prison?
Exactly.
Oh, that's something that
exactly. So that's why I like this one so much. Like I don't even bother trying to get those items, even though I know it's perfectly possible.
Yeah, and I can imagine actually encouraging you to use lower level items that you will normally not be using.
Exactly. With this one, maybe it shows longbow, no, but like the chitin armor, you need to have at least level 30 light armor, I think. 30, no, maybe 40 even. So on its own, like, unless I really work on my light armor, I will not be able to equip chitin armor until I'm level 10, 15, I don't know. Again, I kill my characters before they get to that level, so...
Yeah, that sounds really good. That's actually a much smarter way to fix armor than the way I did it.
I really like it. I think it's definitely an underrated mod of Remiros's. And even though it's not logical, it's not realistic. Like if you know how to put on a pair of boots, it doesn't matter if they're made of leather, cloth, or steel. Like you know how to put them on. Actually, there's two different options for that mod. If you don't have the skill, you can't equip it. But I prefer the other one where, yes, sure, you can equip it, but your fatigue is going to drain very quickly.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a good compromise.
Yeah, so something. I'll try BTB and you can try equipment requirements. I like this one. I think everybody should use it. No, I think it's a mod that should be given a chance. But back to BTB game improvement. So you removed it from your guide. It's because you wanted to make the guide something that more people would find appealing, like, or would actually want to play.
Yeah, and I think that what happened with BTV was when people play with the mod and then asked a lot of questions like, why are my miscellaneous skills not growing? In a way, I fear that they will think, okay, this mod makes controversial changes. How many other mods in this guide do the same thing without warning me about it? So I decided, okay, I'll remove this mod that is easily the most controversial mod of all of them. And ever since then, I haven't got any questions of that kind, because the most complex gameplay mods I have, apart from BTB, are probably Morrowind Anti-Cheat, which is fairly vanilla friendly, and Mort's 3 rebalances, which I think are essential for everyone playing the game.
Yeah, I would agree. Though the 6th house now, occasionally I would peek into a 6th house base and say, oh, let's see what we find. Now I just go, ooh, red candles, get out, quick. That's it.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a death sentence.
And there was, I think it's no longer featuring the guide, but I had a mod called Lucky Strike by R0, and I had to remove that mod.
Yeah, he said it was broken.
Because I kept getting killed by 6th house creatures, and I didn't know why. And it's because their luck stat is so high that they were always critically hitting me. I will die in a single blow.
Yeah. But I think I saw you have a newer one for crits. I forgot the name. Let's see.
I'm actually checking out my guide, and I see it's still here. So maybe I changed something. I think I have a section that asks you to install a vein installer which configures a bunch of mods. And here I'm seeing that it does nerf the critical strike damage.
But yeah, I agree. Lucky Strike. Or if you want to fight with what's his name? The boss man in Monhole. Gaynor. That has like 700 luck, I think.
Yeah, no, that would be madness.
Let's not do that.
Yeah,
And
maybe
I think there was
mod
another mod. There was another mod that did something with crits.
I know of Sneaky Strike, but that deals with sneak damage.
You mean Murlord's Backstab?
Oh no!
You're right. It's when sneaking, you always do a crit. Sneaky Strike. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. That's the one I'm using instead of Lucky Strike.
I think what that mod does is it modifies how much damage you deal based on the weapon you're using. Like Warhammers deal much less sneak damage compared to daggers.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially if you're sneaking and backstabbing. So yeah, this work definitely. Ooh, right.
That mod and Merlord's brutal backstabbing are so good to have as a sneaky character.
My favorite thing with backstabbing, and then you add to that more stealth mod, and then you can finally play as a sneaky backstabbing thief. My favorite thing to do with brutal, it's not to do because it happens almost by accident. It's when I can backstab a cliff racer, and I'm like, damn right, serves you right, cliff racers, for killing me all these times. Because at some point they tried to flee and I was still attacking and I backstab a cliff racer. So good. I love that.
And it was kind of great seeing NPCs, not intentionally of course, but because of how some encounters were designed, I will have an NPC attack me from the front and an NPC backstabbing me from the back. And that will make things very challenging at times.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And especially if you consider that combat in Morrowind, we love Morrowind, but let's face it, combat is lacking, especially if you compare it with more modern games. So anything that changes the vanilla combat to button bashing into anything where you try to think a little bit about what you're doing is definitely a plus. Definitely a plus.
And there was one quest mod I designed, which is actually a tweak to a vanilla quest, which is where you had to defend Athens' Serenity from the Moraton assassins, which I designed with brutal backstabbing in mind because I added more assassins to the manor, and I placed them in a way that one of them will face Athens from the front and another will backstab him from the back. And the idea was basically with the 4 assassins there's always at least one of them attacking him.
Oh,
so,
joy.
Say he manages to kill one of them, well, the other one will go to his back and start killing him too. And it made the quest actually possible to fail, and I added a few extra dialogue lines to account for this.
Nice. It's nice to have the possibility to fail. But really, that's one of the things that I've always enjoyed about Morrowind, even not modded, is that at level 1, you fear everything, including a rat.
Yeah.
A rat can mean death. And I like that. I like that.
Yeah, and one of the saddest things about Morrowind progression is when you come to the point where you have no challenger left to face, you go into a Daedric room and murder everyone left and right.
And then you kill Vivek and you go, what now?
I need to make a new character.
Yep. Which is something that will happen fairly quickly in vanilla. Once you've mastered enchanting and alchemy, and you have 100% chameleon, you're levitating at great speed.
Yeah.
You go and kill all the guards once because it's fun, and then what do you do? So yeah. I agree. I love these mods that, in fact, I think the beginning of the game is what I like the most because I genuinely feel that I am insignificant in the world. I'm nothing, I'm nobody. And I rarely feel that in any other game, I think.
Yeah.
Whew, we have covered a lot of things. Is there something that we haven't talked about that that you wanted to mention?
I don't think so. I do think that I would like to tell people who follow modding guides that it is always important not to take the author's word as a word of God, because even though they were the ones that put the guide together, we do not know everything that there is to know about the mods we suggest to install. It seems like something that I shouldn't be saying, but unfortunately, like I said earlier, I do not know scripting. I can guarantee that a mod will work 100% as intended. It's always important to talk to the mod authors whenever you encounter a bug. Of course, I much prefer if you told me about it first, So I could tell you if it's something on your end, if it's something that's wrong about the guide, or if it's something that you should be bothering the mod author about. Um, but yeah, it's always important to read what you're doing, follow the instructions to the letter, because if it's written there for a reason.
Exactly. Like I think there's two parts to it. There's, on the one hand, really pay attention to the instructions to make sure you do that right, but at the same time, like, think about what you do, because nobody is perfect, and there's always room for improvement. So follow the guide religiously, but then think about it too, so it can be improved. So yeah,
If I tell you delete your game, don't do that.
you wouldn't say that. Uninstall Morrowind and play Oblivion. Have you, like you said that the first time you played Oblivion, you uninstalled it, and the same thing happened for Morrowind, but you gave it another chance. Did you give Oblivion another chance?
No.
No, and like,
I don't think that's ever gonna happen.
not gonna happen. Is it the aesthetics and the floaty feeling of the game?
I said I think the floaty movement can be easily fixed with a mod. It could be fixed in 5 minutes, I think. But there's something about that game that just doesn't capture me in a way that Morrowind did, or that even Skyrim did. A lot of people say that Oblivion is like the ugly middle child. I think they are right. I think Bethesda, like, Oblivion was a step between going from Morrowind to Skyrim. And if Bethesda could have skipped that step, they would have done it.
Yeah, at the same time, Oblivion was really promoted as, something revolutionary with the, what they call it, the radiant AI for the NPCs and things like that. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah, and in a way, that's how. Yeah, and that's basically why people had so much faith in Fallout 3, because they said Bethesda just made this amazing game that is Oblivion. We can wait to see what they do with Fallout next.
At the same time, some people actually prefer Oblivion of all the other Scrolls games.
Yeah, there are weird people around there.
To each their own. As for me, I'll say I don't get into the game and my characters and the world of it. Even Skyrim actually doesn't grab me as much as Morrowind.
Yeah, I think that the big problem with Skyrim, I don't know so much about Oblivion, but because I played and beaten Skyrim, I can talk about it, is that in Morrowind you truly feel like you're someone there, and in Skyrim you feel like characters are not talking to the character, but they are talking to the player behind the screen.
That's an interesting way of saying it. I never
In a
thought
way,
about it.
I'd say that it's like they're trying to keep you entertained, whereas Morrowind NPCs and quests are not afraid to tell you, go do this mundane thing. In Skyrim, everything has to be spectacular because NPCs try their hardest to keep you interested in the game.
Yeah, there's definitely a shift there. So you're not gonna give Oblivion another chance. That's final.
Maybe, perhaps in the future, but
Who knows?
not now.
Special challenge. What about Skywind? Is that something that you are curious about, or not?
I think they had the wrong idea. I think that if you truly love Morrowind, I mean, I'm going to say something that shouldn't be said. That whole true Scotsman fallacy and so on. But I think the people who truly love Morrowind are those who are making the Tamriel Rebuild project. Those are still working on Morrowind mods to this day. And I feel that people who say it's better to remake Morrowind in Skyrim's engine with Skyrim's combat and other features are missing the point of what Morrowind is all about. They're making a Morrowind game for people who never liked Morrowind to begin with, because if they did, they will still be playing Morrowind, they will still be using MWSE mods, and they would still be working on Tambir Rebuild.
That I think you put the finger on something there. Skywind, like I there's some really good things about it, but you're right. Skywind is for people who can't or couldn't play Morrowind because it's age, because it's clunky, because of whatever reason they don't like it, and it's a way to make them like a game that they don't want to play. Whereas people who do love Morrowind, you're right, they just play Morrowind. It's like, what else is there?
I
So
mean,
you're right.
when you think about it, it's so much easier in a way to recreate, let's say, to recreate Morrowind from scratch in Morrowind's engine than it is to remake Morrowind in Skyrim's engine, because there's so much more you have to deal with. If you need to tweak a quest, you need to revoice a bunch of dialogue lines. You need to make sure that the sounds all right. In Morrowind, you just write the dialogue and that's it. If you want to change a word, you just do that, and you don't have to re-record anything. It's so much less work. You don't have to deal with wonky physics where fruits go flying off their baskets, and you have so much more leeway to make your game in Morrowind.
Agreed. And there's something that I wanted to add and now I forgot. What was it? Okay, I forgot. Oh yes, no. In defense of Skywind, I will say, like, personally, when it comes out, I will try it, but I am almost certain that I will play it for 30 minutes, and after that, I'm gonna go, yeah, I want to play Morrowind. Because that's what happened to me when I played the Dragonborn DLC of Skyrim. I was like, oh, red ruined buildings, oh, trauma roots, and immediately after that, I was like, yeah, but I'd rather just play Morrowind. But that's because I love Morrowind. So I don't think that I will become a huge fan of Skywind. However, the quality of what they're doing, I think, is really, really commendable. Like the voice acting is done by maybe not professional, but at least semi-professional people. They actually spend a lot of time making the concept art to give it something interesting but true to Morrowind. I think it's going to be very high quality. Not something that I will enjoy, but high quality nonetheless.
I think that what happens is that people have never played Morrowind, and when they hear people praise Morrowind with things like, well, it has these giant mushrooms, and these NPCs who call you Outlander, and they think that Morrowind is just that. And Morrowind, besides from being a great setting, it's a game. It's a great game. And when you remake Morrowind in Skyrim's engine, you lose a lot of what makes Morrowind Morrowind.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Not to mention that I'm pretty sure that the day I play Skywind, and for armor, I'm gonna have fur, leather, chitin, Dark Brotherhood glass, and I'm gonna be back to square one where I say, but wait, that's not enough armor, that doesn't work. So even though it's a reconstruction of Morrowind, all the mods that I now play with that I consider essential, they're not going to be there. They're not even going to exist. So
and
it's a step back for me. It is a step back.
And it's one thing to sort of gloss over these issues in Morrowind, because as we know, Bethesda is not going to go back and fix them. But if you're recreating Morrowind from scratch, why not fix them while you're at it?
Yeah, and I'm sure there's major improvements, but it's going to be the vanilla content in a more modern engine, which is not particularly attractive for me. But at the same time, I'm quite happy that a lot of people who don't know Morrowind and looked at it and like you after 30 minutes say, nah, it's too ugly. Well, those people will in a way give Morrowind another chance. At least they'll know a bit more about it. Maybe they'll try the original again.
And I think that in a way the Dragonborn DLC for Skyrim was sort of like a forward to Skywind in that it did make users ask themselves, what are these giant bugs walking around the island? What are these giant jellyfishes flying around? Where did all this come from? And I'm sure that DLC made many people play Morrowind. They may have not loved it, but I'm sure quite a few modern fans, their first approach to Morrowind was from Dragonborn.
Yeah, it got them curious, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Prof in the chat is saying that he's talked to a number of people and the RNG-based combat is what kills it for them. And I agree with that. People complain the most about the RNG combat and the speed, which is why when I made my guide with only 15 mods, I was really careful. Like, I didn't make a guide for people like you and me who know the game and know how to mod the game. I made a guide. In my mind, I was somebody who played Skyrim, and when I played Morrowind, what made me stop playing it? And so I put mods that did that. And a little bit like you, I put mods also that did not require any sort of tweaking, that could be enabled or disabled from the game. So even if you have no idea, if you didn't like it, you just disabled it from the game, and that was it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great approach to making mod guides. You try to address the issues that first come to mind. I personally think Morrowind's UI, although it was clearly designed with computers in mind, it lacks important information, and that's why I think UI expansion is such an essential mod.
Must have.
Quick Equip is another mod that I think is essential because it gets tiring to drag your mouse, your clothing over to your paper all the time. Expansion delay, as we said earlier, patch for purists, obviously. I think intelligent textures is in a way an essential mod.
It is like even if people want fancier, brighter, other textures, at least you put that as a blanket mod, and then change if you want that face, that color, whatever. But that's an essential for a basic install. I agree. Vegeto is saying that in the end, it's always better to have Skywind than not. More Morrowind out there, the better it is. I'll agree with that. I agree with that. And you were talking about Dragonborn and how it added some Morrowind content to another Elder Scrolls games. I think it's something that Bethesda and ZeniMax are doing a lot. Like, they will never go back to Morrowind. There will never be a Morrowind Anniversary Edition. And now, if in May, for the 20th anniversary of Morrowind, they come up with a Morrowind Anniversary Edition, I'm gonna feel very stupid. But that's okay. I'm ready to deal with it. But realistically, they're never going to make a remaster or a remake of Morrowind. However, what they do every time, it feels, is take content from Morrowind, armor, weapon, characters, creatures, and inject that into a newer game. So Skyrim had the whole DLC, but also some of their creation store were Dwemer, or rather Dunmer items. If you take Elder Scrolls Legends, the card game, there was a whole DLC add-on that would add Morrowind characters, spells, blah blah blah. Elder Scrolls Online did the same thing, a whole DLC with Morrowind. So they won't go back to it, but they know that if they inject some of Morrowind in their game, a number of people will go for it because they get a bit of Morrowind there.
Well, it's kind of funny because they did something similar with Fallout 76. They added a lot of old Fallout games, and I mean before they even took hold over the franchise, and they added a lot of items of armor, weapons, even statics like bunkers and other items, and a lot of old fans love that. I mean, I see the assets and I think, wow, that looks great.
First, nostalgia.
I think Bethesda does a lot of nostalgia pandering, which is fine, but one wishes that it went beyond just making items add-ons for the game.
It feels a little bit like a cash grab. Like they know people will be willing to. Yeah, it feels easy. It might not be actually. I don't know, but it feels a little cheap. But it works, so that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Why would they stop? That would be stupid on their part, I think. Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you compare it to the Horse Armor DLC, they've come a long ways.
For sure. I was gonna say it's going to be midnight very soon for me, so we're going to call it a day very soon. But I wanted to thank you.
All right.
Right?
Now-
Would you believe it? We've been at it for a few hours.
What's the usual length for the average stream?
If we're just talking, it's no more than 3 hours, and
Wow.
and if I'm playing, it can be 3, 4, but not more than that. So there you have it.
Well,
4 hours
that's pretty
talking
good.
about Morrowind. But that, I'm not surprised. It's always like that. Very often when I get in touch with modders and say, hey, do you want to do the stream? We talk about your mods for a couple of hours. There's no way we can talk for hours about my mod.
Yeah.
Yes way. They must redo it from scratch, not like Skyrim 45th edition. They will never do Morrowind from scratch.
Sorry.
And the voice acting, yeah, no, it did.
Outlander.
It would be like I don't know, a third of the data of the game is the voice files, I guess.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that the fact that there are no or very little voice acting in Morrowind is what allowed the people to get involved in the game so much.
Yeah.
Which might be not counterintuitive, because normally when people talk to you, like you can be immersed more, but for me it didn't work like that.
Well, today I was talking about in the Morrowind channel about how voice acting in New Vegas had so few voice actors that it made all characters feel the same. And while in Morrowind a handful of voice actors voiced the same characters for every race, the fact that these voices were limited to a handful of barks let you really put yourself in the mind of the character you were talking to and imagine how they would speak these words you were reading out loud.
Yeah, I agree. And also, like in Skyrim, now I want to say Skywind, but in Skyrim, the same voice actor would do the whole race, but they would do more than hello, bye, hi.
Yeah.
They would actually make whole sentences, so you would hear that voice over and over and over again. Whereas in Morrowind, you don't hear it that much, or you're in the middle of the fight and they go, oh. So, you know, it's not the same. Definitely not the same thing. Right. Thank you so much for spending time with us and talking about your guide, about BTB, about your mods as well, and our favorite game in general.
No, thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure talking to you.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, because for sure I'll have to invite you again.
Thank you very much.
Chat, thank you so much for spending time with us. I know that when we do the interviews, it's always me and my guest talking a lot, but I know you're here and I appreciate it. That's what I want to say. I'll see you next week on Thursday. I'll be playing Morrowind after a month. Yes. Probably. I'll see you next week. Next week there is no guest modder because, that's important, because next weekend is the mod jam, the winter mod jam. So there is no Sunday stream. I don't think. Maybe not. Maybe I'll want to play while people are modding. We'll see. Anyway, until then, everybody have a good night, afternoon, morning. I don't know what time it is for you guys. Lucas, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll be talking soon at some point.
All right, have a good night.
Bye and bye chat. See you soon.
Bye bye.